Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Michigan like that throw ahead, quick three. There on the catch.
Oh, here's Reed. Nice post up, nice slam. Walker lob it up. Carr! You are ridiculous. Walker up ahead. Holloman running with Sissoko. Holloman! Watch your head.
Good morning. It's Friday here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me. Our guy Shane Schilberg producing. We're live on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and of course, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Man, it has been a very strange week. It's always that short week. Yeah, that week coming off of holidays is always very strange. It's been a short week. It's felt sort of long for me. I don't think either of us are sleeping normally.
No, not yet. Not yet.
And it's, we were talking.
I'm not even close.
Yeah, I'm getting closer. But man, when you have our schedule, it's really impractical to try and keep that schedule when you're off for a week or 10 days or whatever we were, because no one else operates from 5 in the morning until 10 in the morning. And then they're like, well, my day's over. Got to go to bed at 8 p.m. Like no one else operates that way. And so it's really hard when you're not doing this show to be like, oh, well, I'm still going to go to bed at like super early and I'm going to wake up at 5. Because unless you've got one of those like 80-year-old grandparents that like opens up Panera every morning, like
that's a great analogy,
dude. The only reason, so I went to I went through this little bout of insomnia when I was in college, and
you would end up at Panera at 5.
Turns out it was anxiety, but whatever.
Formerly known as St. Louis Bread Company. Everybody out there, fun fact.
I've heard. We call it Panera here.
Well, yeah, you're not in St. Louis. Well, that was the only place they called it St. Louis.
They still
Bread
call it
Company.
Nebraska Furniture Company in Texas, or Nebraska Furniture Mart in Texas. So you never know. But no, so I went through this little bout of insomnia in college, and I looked up like what places will like opened the earliest because I could not fall asleep. It's like 4:00 in the morning. I didn't want to go to IHOP or anywhere. And I was like, okay, where it opens up, I can get some breakfast, whatever. And I think Panera opens at like 5:30 or something, or they used to. I don't know. That was pre-pandemic, so I don't know everything. All the hours changed after that. But so I'd go, and I would be the youngest person in there by like a half century. I was probably 22 years old, and there was not a soul under 70.
Hey, at least you got a fresh bagel, maybe a breakfast sandwich.
I used to get the I was a big cinnamon crunch bagel guy.
No way, me too.
I low-key, if I didn't want that much like sweet, I'd go French toast bagel.
Dude, this is crazy. That's my second.
Dude, it's really good.
And that's like where I stop. Unless I get a plain bagel or a sesame seed bagel because I just want a little bit of butter on it.
Yeah.
But I don't do cream cheese,
No.
so I need the sweet.
Yeah. So there's a hazelnut or something cream cheese that's pretty good on the French toast.
Can't do it.
It's too much
like cream cheese.
I really don't either. It's got to be like a real thin schmear because otherwise, I don't know. It gets too.
It's just not for me.
I get too much of the mayo texture if it's like people like glob it on there, it freaks me out. But yeah, so I used to go to Panera at like 5:30 in the morning. That's when I realized, the only people up at this time are retired. Honestly, I think it's 90% retired teachers because they're used to getting up at the crack of dawn and they have nowhere else to go. So they're like, well, I did this for 40 years. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to go to Panera every morning. And it was the same people every single morning. It was wild.
Well, to your other point, you know why it's still Nebraska Furniture Mart in Texas, right?
Why is that?
It's because Nebraska is constantly trolling Texas. Like they inserted themselves in that state. It's their recruiting ground.
That's true.
Texas is a powerful player.
And so not only just with athletes, but with furniture stores, that's where they have to stay. And the reason, too, is because James Nebraska is a huge Nebraska football fan. The guy that started Nebraska Furniture Mart.
I don't think that's his name.
That's not his name?
No, I think
no.
So. I think it's a Rose Blum.
Oh, Nebraska's not a last name?
No.
Oh.
No. It's I believe it's a native word, I think.
Maybe.
That may
I like
sense.
James Nebraska more.
Yeah. No, that might have
been. I feel
been
like that's Shane's alter ego, James Nebraska. What would James Nebraska be in life?
Ooh, James Nebraska. So you got Shane in my head now.
Oh, come on, Shane.
I'm now envisioning him as because in another.
He sounds like a door-to-door salesman.
That could like a vacuum salesman in the 50s.
Maybe. Hello, ma'am. I'm James, Nebraska. Here from the home state of Nebraska.
He's selling Dyson vacuums door to door. No, I got because you mentioned Shane, and I don't know, Shane. I hope you don't mind me telling people this. In another life, Shane worked at a gas station for a while, and so I had immediately went to my head. I was like, James, Nebraska is the overly friendly guy at a gas station, like the clerk at a gas station.
Why the is Shane walking in there?
Yeah, that's what I'd be. Why?
James, Nebraska is actually Nebraska's version of Connor Stallion.
Oh,
but because he has a leg up on Stallions because he didn't get caught.
That's true.
And I don't think he's so discreet.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll ever get caught.
Well, to his friends, he's Jimmy Nebraska. So you got to.
No, that's his Venmo.
Oh, Jimmy _Nebraska.
Yeah.
Hashtag GBR. I don't know how we started there. We got a good show for you today, though. We've got Matt DeMarinis coming up at 8 a.m. to talk about Creighton. They've got a big matchup with Providence tomorrow, although Providence will be missing a major piece in Bryce Hopkins. So we'll check in with Matt DeMarinis, kind of get his thoughts on the early conference season, as well as we might talk to him about what happened the other night with Creighton and UConn women, but we don't have to. We'll think about it. We'll see how the interview's going. At 9, we'll have our guy Mike Sautter to catch us up on the Metro Holiday Tournament in prep basketball.
Also a little Nebraska ball.
Always Nebraska ball. They are rolling, and he has got a front row seat to it. And then we will wrap up the show with Matt Vrzal, former Husker, owner of Paisan's Pizzeria. Along the way, few things that I want to touch on that we'll get to later. It's Black Monday Eve in NFL football coaching circles.
That is true.
Because starting tomorrow, you've got the last weekend of NFL football games, and we did this a month ago, 6 weeks ago. We talked about some of the coaches. The number we had heard from Schefter is 9 to 12 coaches he thought could get fired. I want to see where we're at on that number. I want to see which guys, because I think some guys have coached themselves off of the hot seat, and I think some guys could still coach themselves onto the hot seat.
I'm happy you said
as
that.
well. So,
because there are a couple that I was looking at yesterday and thought, man, if you didn't get to 9 and 7, you may have had a question mark next to your name for next season.
And there's one in particular that I thought for sure was getting fired, and all of a sudden I'm looking at it and I was like, I don't know. It's becoming a much more difficult decision. So we will get to the NFL hot seat and the playoff picture, because they're all kind of rolled into one here in about an hour. But until then, some college quarterback breaking, I don't know if it's breaking news, but
about dang time news.
Some
maybe?
news. Well, there's a couple of them, right? So there's some news overnight. Will Howard, Kansas State, finally makes his commitment to Ohio State. He visited / flirted with USC and Miami pretty aggressively. He met with Nebraska, apparently. Obviously, he was looking for the right fit. And good on him. He's upgraded his situation from, not that Kansas State's a bad situation, but from Kansas State to Ohio State. Obviously, there's a talent difference there. But I'm kind of wondering about this from both perspectives. This seems like a super weird fit to me.
Maybe a little bit, but I think after watching Ohio State in that bowl game, when you got a piece of what Devin Brown looked like for a short time,
Sure.
and then Lincoln Kienholz, neither of those guys seemed overly ready to take over that program.
Kienholz is the answer for sure. Not next year.
Not next year.
Yeah.
Devin Brown, I think we were talking to Bill Bender, and it just seems a little too early to really assess him.
Well, and we didn't get to see a ton of him either. He got banged up pretty quick. He wasn't in there.
But also, when you have a guy like Will Howard available, why not put all your eggs in his basket to come in and basically do what every other Ohio State quarterback has been doing for you before McCord? Is Will Howard going to be a first-round pick? I don't know. Maybe if he really blows up, but I doubt it.
I would guess no. Yeah, I would lean no.
But I think he is actually maybe 2 or 3 stairs ahead of where Kyle McCord was last season.
So that's my question from the Ohio State standpoint. Is Will Howard actually better than Kyle McCord?
I think he's further in line.
So I think he's more mobile than Kyle McCord. And if that's something that you're looking for, although if I'm remembering off the top of my head here, Will Howard's rushing stats aren't crazy. I think as he's become better as a passer, they've kind of taken away some of the running game from him a little bit, which makes sense. People do that a lot. But I don't know. I don't look at Will Howard. I know he's been really sought after in the transfer portal market. I don't know that I look at Will Howard last year or really at any point in his career and I go, yeah, that guy's way better than what I saw from Kyle McCord last year.
I wouldn't go with way better, but I still think he's in front of Kyle McCord in line.
And so that's fair. If you want to say they're close, but Will Howard's a little ahead, I can understand it from Ohio State standpoint. I guess I don't necessarily understand it from a Will Howard standpoint unless he got some guarantees from Ohio State that he would start next year. Because if you're Will Howard and you're trying to go to the NFL, obviously, right? Like that's why he's making this move, I would assume. There's probably some NIL money involved as well. But if you're trying to make this move, you're trying to show, hey, I can run a different kind of offense. I can be more of a traditional passer. I can do this at the NFL level. He's got to play in order to do that. And it's not like, A, they don't have a couple reasonably highly touted guys on the roster already, and B, a super highly touted guy coming in as well in Nolan. So, like, I don't understand for him. And depending on where you look at, Nolan's a 5-star. Like, he's not super far out of the neighborhood of what we're talking about with Dylan Raiola. I don't understand if you're Will Howard, how that makes a ton of sense.
Well, you got to expect that this is it.
What do you mean?
This is Will Howard's year.
You would think,
this is
but
it. Like
if you're Ryan Day,
he's going here for 1 year.
No, for sure. But if you're Ryan Day, are you really guaranteeing him that spot?
Well, he didn't guarantee McCord that spot last year.
Sure.
There were so many, and I remember bringing this up. It was probably.
But it's different when you're with McCord and you're already there versus you're transferring in for your last year. That's where I don't understand it from a Will Howard standpoint.
Well, so again, you have to think about what Ryan Day saw in that bowl game from his other 2 quarterbacks. Sure. And he couldn't be happy with what he saw out of those 2 guys. Not to say that, some were limited and the eyes on Devin Brown again weren't long because he was on the bike for a majority of that game. But when you have a guy in the portal that you can instantly slot in and be an impact guy, keep Ohio State where it needs to be in this conference transition, you don't want to take a major step back in that regard, because think about Ohio State just as a school, right? They have the prowess of being something in the 1 to 6 range. And if you don't take a guy like Will Howard right now, watching Devin Brown and Lincoln Kienholz and then maybe relying on a 5-star true freshman, whatever that looks like, that doesn't get you in that 1 to 6 window. And having a guy that has a ton of playing experience like Will Howard, that could keep you there. Will Howard kept K-State relevant this past season.
Yeah, he was good at K-State,
they were what,
for sure,
in the 10 to 25 range in the standings?
Yeah.
He can do that again at Ohio State. Now, also, if you're out there and you're thinking, well, Kyle McCord's stats were way better than Will Howard.
No, they're about the same.
Like Kyle McCord had better stats, but you also have to remember Kyle McCord was on a better team.
Better talent. So my only issue, and so I agree with you there on the stats aren't crazy different, which is why I kind of looked at him and like, is Will Howard that much better than Kyle McCord? And if we want to give him an edge, that's fine. But my other thought is, okay, what value do you get of a second year of Kyle McCord in the same offense versus Will Howard, who that's K-State and Ohio State don't run the same stuff. Maybe conceptually they're the same. I'm not deep enough into their offenses to know, okay, their route trees are similar and their passing concepts are similar, so it's not a huge transition. That may be true. But the fact is, Kyle McCord ran this exact same offense last year. You would think that would give him a little bit of an advantage for a guy that it doesn't seem like production-wise at least, there was a huge gap between the two.
Yeah, and at that point, it gets you wondering if internally something was wrong. Maybe it was a relationship issue. Maybe it was we want to go a different direction.
And maybe McCord did want to be guaranteed a job, which I can understand in his position, and Will Howard didn't. What I don't understand is why Will Howard wouldn't want to be guaranteed a job. Like, I get some guys are competitors and whatever, and you bet on yourself.
When you have a leg up like he does, the job is practically guaranteed at this point. Out of all the other guys in the room, you'd have to think it's a 70-30 swing right now in favor of Will Howard. And losing out on that 20% is pretty difficult after what he's been able to do at K-State and how he rose to fame at K-State. I mean, think about it. When Adrian Martinez got hurt and Will Howard took over, Will Howard was like, oh my gosh, he's our answer. And then when Will Howard was, I don't know, was he actually struggling this past year before? Is it Avery Johnson? It's
Avery Johnson. No, he got banged up. He wasn't. I don't think he wasn't like benched.
When Will Howard got banged up a little bit and Avery Johnson took over, that's what K-State started looking at. And Avery Johnson is a great rusher.
Yeah,
like he runs the ball very well. He reminds me.
He's a better runner than Will Howard.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of what Kansas had in Jason Bean, like his ability to scramble and throw the deep ball. Like there's something there. So when you have somebody with multiple skill sets versus somebody with pretty much just one, it's easy for Will Howard to say, I'm going to hit the portal and find a way to a new team.
I get that. Ohio State felt like a weird fit to me.
If he goes to USC, he's in the same spot.
Yeah, no, Miami made sense to me.
Miami would. But do you want to play for Mario Cristobal and what that
I have no
program has been putting out there? I don't.
Idea.
I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I'd much rather compete if I have to a little bit for a job at Ohio State or USC than I would Miami.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fair. You know, if Miami's just not a place that you want to end up being, but you know, there were a lot of places that are hyper competitive that like Washington would have made more sense to me.
But Will Rogers is already there.
Right. But I think prior to this, they would have taken Will Howard over Will Rogers.
I don't think so because Will Rogers was. Oh, you're talking Ohio State?
No, I'm talking Washington.
Well, Will Rogers was like 1, 2, or 3 off the board in terms of
early.
What Washington wanted.
He was early, right? I don't know.
I would rather have Will Rogers than Will Howard.
You think so?
Yeah. And this is solely based off of his season 2 years ago versus last season.
And I don't know how much of that I just chalk up to the Mike Leach of it all.
And that could be, but
like I always am a little hesitant.
Mike Leach, really good coach.
No, I understand that, but the numbers always are a little skewed. Then we need anytime you've got a Mike Leach quarterback.
But if I can go play for Kalen DeBoer, I'd want to go play for Kalen DeBoer.
No, I'm not blaming Will Rogers, but I'm like, why wasn't Will Howard on the phone with Kalen DeBoer, knowing like, hey, Penix is gone next year?
Well, and so it's interesting, and this could be a learning curve for a lot of transfer portal guys going forward. If you get in the portal early, you're probably going to pick the team that you want to play for.
Yeah, but Will Howard's in there as early as anybody.
Versus get stuck with who's left.
Yeah, you don't.
And I'm not saying Ohio State is, hey, I got stuck with Ohio State, but Will Rogers had every team to choose from,
and he decided early, so he had more options. Will Howard was in the portal about the same time, but he drug his feet. And so maybe he still had a lot of those options, but I mean, you look at the teams that needed quarterbacks that started to, like, would Notre Dame have taken him over Riley Leonard? I don't know, probably not, but Notre Dame was open and closed early. Oregon was open and closed early. I mean, he could have still gone to Florida State probably. They just closed theirs up recently.
Yeah, Florida State would have been one that
would have made way more sense.
I would be, if this argument wasn't Miami and it was Florida State, I would tend to lean your way. Because Florida State's a job that will have success even in the turmoil of that school right now and where they sit in the ACC.
Right, but you look at Mike Norvell, you're like, okay, great quarterbacks coach, great offensive mind. What he's done over the last few years has been incredible.
But they probably just didn't want him.
Because maybe they didn't.
DJU is better than Will Howard.
I mean, I think so, but in the transfer portal rankings, he was dramatically lower.
And that came as a shock to me too.
But
I also think back to when DJU was at Clemson, he was so highly ranked there.
Yes.
And then because of the season he had, he dropped so far in stars to go to Oregon State.
Yeah.
But what he did at Oregon State this year with Jonathan Smith, I think was very impressive. What an 8-4 season. But when he was there, it was 8-3.
Yeah. I listen, I like DJU. I think he took way too much crap at Clemson. I think it's a great fit for Florida State. I'm pretty excited about that. They pretty much, I think, narrowed it down to him and Cam Ward pretty early. But
that's another thing. You're combating. You're batting next to a guy by the name of Cam Ward. Right?
Yeah.
When you're at a prospect camp,
yeah,
and you show up and Cam Ward standing next to you after the season he had at Washington State, you're like, well, I'm second tier.
Yeah. I mean, I get it from Ohio State's standpoint. I think it's smart for them to be like, hey, we've got an established guy. I just don't. And listen, maybe Will Howard's betting on himself in a way that I think is a little bit not foolish, but I don't know if he's taking the whole picture into account, right? A lot of times guys bet on themselves, and it's a situation where either they're not getting full information from the coaching staff that's talking to them, because like it is recruiting, by the way, like, especially with transfer guys where you don't have a ton of time to build a relationship. You don't have a ton of time to feel guys out. Like Dylan Raiola has been feeling out Nebraska, whether this coaching staff or the last coaching staff, for years, right? How long has anybody in the transfer portal been feeling out the situation they're going to? A lot of times it's like 3 days, right? They are, like the Riley Leonard Notre Dame thing is a good example. That was like 2 weeks tops.
That was figured out before he even entered the transfer.
Yeah, right.
portal.
But it took him 2 weeks to commit. I don't know, whatever, right? But you look at a lot of these places, like how long did Kyle McCord feel out Syracuse? They got a new coach, Fran Brown.
It was going to be Nebraska.
That's what I mean.
It wasn't.
That's what I mean. So that's how you know with Kyle McCord, it was literally 2 or 3 days because he went straight from Nebraska, basically to Syracuse, who had just hired a new coach in Fran Brown. So even if he had contact with Syracuse before, he didn't know any of those guys. And all of a sudden, it's like, yep, I'm going to Syracuse. It's like, yeah, I get you're from that part of the country.
And sometimes you rush it because you don't want to get left behind.
And so I respect Will Howard in the sense of kind of taking his time through the process. But even with Ohio State, they came onto the scene super late. How long was he actually building that relationship there? I mean, at most, we're talking about a month with any of these guys.
Think about this too, and it may not just be a Will Howard thing. It may be an Ohio State thing.
Sure.
Ryan Day and that staff may have felt pressured by the program to get somebody in there after what they saw in that game because of maybe fan reaction and booster reaction to, wait a second, we're going to take this big of a step back next year because we're putting the ball in Devin Brown's hand or Lincoln Keenholz's hands, and like those are our two guys. Yeah. No. You got to figure this out. You got to go get somebody. And it could have been a situation of, oh, shoot, now we got to get on somebody's radar in the transfer portal. Will Howard's the best available. We just got to get in his mix, and boom, we can sell ourselves because we have X, Y, and Z dollars that we can throw at him. We can beat anybody.
That actually makes a lot of sense because it didn't seem like Ohio State was super active in the transfer portal market for quarterbacks until
after that bowl game.
Really recently, right? Until right after the bowl game. And then all of a sudden they're like, ooh, maybe we should give Will Howard a call. So that would actually make a ton of sense to me. Like I said, I get it from Ohio State. Not sure I get it from Will Howard, but that's where he's ended up. There was one other thing I wanted to get to before we take a break here. Alan Bowman from Oklahoma State been granted a 7th year of eligibility. 7th year. So he's not going anywhere, but except for maybe to med school. That might be where Alan Bowman is ending up.
Hey, sometimes people go to school for 10 years.
Yeah, they're called doctors. That is your update on the transfer portal quarterback situation. Coming up next, we've got more of Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back.
Answer on the opposite end.
Drawing Wisconsin 1 point away.
How about the answer on
Yeah, I think a lot of ways. I mean, I think he's more comfortable offensively making plays for other people. Defensively, he's made gigantic strides. And, last year he was the new starter to 4 returning starters. So I think he really walked a fine line of leadership last year. He didn't want to overstep his bounds, I think, since he was a new guy, maybe tried too hard to fit in. This year he's really taken the bull by the horns and has been a great leader. And, the rebounding numbers, the assist numbers are, he does everything for our team. And he's been absolutely a pleasure to coach.
We will be back. We will be back.
Right back to Quinterly. He's going to fire a 3. Yes! Quick 3-point. Your final 78. Shoots, misses. Tigers win.
We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Right back to Quinterly. He's going to fire a 3. Yes! With 3.7 to go. Inbound. Here's Kobe Williams. Drives down at the buzzer. Shoots. Misses. Tigers win. Quinterly's 3 is the difference. Your final 78-75.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live from the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill on the H&H Chevrolet stage. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me. Good morning. You can join the show on the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline, 888-638-4876. Or you can email us if you want to, Ravi@hurrdatsports.com or Andrew@hurrdat.com. Or on the Twitter machine, @AndrewRogersCC or @RA Lulla. Lots of ways to get involved with the show.
But if you email me, you have to CC Ravi.
Yes, you have to CC me on the email, but you have to CC Andrew on the Twitter.
That's right.
That's how it works. We were talking about quarterbacks and Will Howard, his decision to go to Ohio State. We mentioned briefly Alan Bowman. I don't know how to say. I think it's Bowman. I think I said Bauman.
Going to school still, taking a few classes.
Yeah, he got a
trying to get into every sporting event
of eligibility.
You know what? I think there's a guy I'm pretty sure there's a student at UNO that does that stays enrolled so he can go to the games for free. Like he takes one class every semester,
like one online class.
I'm pretty sure that's a true story.
That is that's commitment. That's commitment to the Mavs. We appreciate a hardcore fan like that. So yeah, maybe that's what Alan Bowman's doing. He's just trying to keep his student tickets alive. I'm not sure, but yeah, he'll be back for 7th year. So enjoy, I guess, Zane Flores, and enjoy the view, because it doesn't seem like you're getting on the field next year either. But who knows? We'll see. Maybe he'll beat him out.
Maybe Bauman's knees are just gonna give out.
They might be
so old.
Well, he probably needs a hip replacement at this point.
Yeah,
so
I'm like, man, somebody get this man a walker.
Bauman, who knows? But he's old. He's been playing. He'll be playing college football for 7 years. And hot take, I think that's too long.
7 years?
Yeah, I think.
You sure?
I think it's too long.
Didn't Aiden O'Connell play for 7 years? 6,
I think. I think he was 6. 6 is my limit.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
It's most people's limit.
6 is my hard cap on college. Just nope. For college athletes, at least. If it took you 9 years to finish your undergrad, I don't care. That's fine.
Well, and you also have to remember, too, when it comes to eligibility, at some point, the NCAA is going to have to speed this thing up. Fortunately, NIL is here so that it can act as a separate scholarship when the team runs out of scholarships.
Yeah.
But it's really going to hinder what high school kids come in, because you choose to stay for much longer than you're welcome for.
Well, I mean, apparently he's still welcome back, because they don't have to honor the scholarship after 4 years, right? Or 5 years. I don't remember.
Yeah, but when you're there for 7 years,
he's probably got he's a tenured professor. He's got a mortgage.
Yeah. You don't want to leave, because if you leave,
his oldest child, I think, is going to be a freshman at Oklahoma State, but by the time he leaves,
I bet he leaves with a pension.
His wife is faculty, I'm pretty sure. I'm just kidding. I don't know any of this. He's very old. That's the point. That's the whole story. I'm also very old in a different way. And one of the things this very old person has a ton of nostalgia for is coming back this summer. And that's the NCAA football game.
That is true.
I think I'm going to I think I'm going to have to buy like a PS5 or something, because I don't have one currently.
I mean, they have to make it for the PS4 too.
Well, I don't even have a PS4.
I know, but I think you could get a cheaper system.
Maybe.
So that you don't have to splurge on the newest thing.
Yeah, I kind of want to, though.
If PS5 is sick.
If I'm being honest,
I don't have one.
Yeah.
Like, I've played it.
Yeah.
It's really cool and highly advanced. But again, like, maybe here's what we should do.
Yeah,
I'll buy the game.
Okay,
you come over, play the game with me. Then you're like, I really like it on this machine, so I'm gonna get this machine for cheaper. Andrew, thanks for saving me $200. I'll be like, you're welcome. That'll be $50.
So now I only saved $150. But one of my favorite things about that game, which I'll have to figure it out, and I'm sure I'll get advice from the listeners on which system to buy and whatever and all that good stuff, because I haven't bought a video game system since the Xbox 360. So it's been a minute.
Oh man,
I still have it. It still works. It's phenomenal.
That's it. Maybe it comes out on the 360.
Probably not, but I do still have the last edition. I think it's 14 on the 360, which is why I kept the 360, so I could keep playing NCAA football. But one of the most fun things about that game was you could change the playbooks for whatever dynasty you were running or whatever team you wanted to take over for your career. And there was a really interesting question in Mitch Sherman's mailbag from, I believe, Nick P., who asked, basically, if the game comes out and let's say, because they're programming it and stuff already, like it's probably mostly done at this point. If they're programming this thing and they say, hey, we don't really know Like, is this Glenn Thomas guy coming? We don't know what the offense is going to look like next year. Is Satterfield still calling plays? Probably, but we don't really know. Their offense didn't look anything like they think it's going to look next year. So we kind of have to blank slate this Nebraska offensive playbook. If you're sitting there and choosing an offensive playbook for the personnel that we know about right now, right? And I'll let you throw in one of the two wide receiver transfers we're looking at this weekend. I'll allow one of those, but otherwise just the roster we currently know about. What team's playbook are you choosing for Nebraska's offense?
So I'm going to start with the two runner-ups.
Okay.
Arizona was a close second.
Ooh, okay. That's an interesting one.
Because I really liked the way that Noah Fifita, is that how you pronounce his name?
I believe so.
I really liked the way that they used him in this offense, and I don't think Dylan Raiola would be too far off of what Fifita was for Arizona in this year in Raiola's year one. And I also really liked what Mizzou did this year. And now the bowl game, little different story. They were facing the number one pass defense in college football in Ohio State.
Yeah.
Sometimes those things happen, but Brady Cook and Luther Burden and also Cody Schrader. This was a really well put together team. But the one team that I landed on was Oregon.
Oh, okay.
So I loved the way they mixed in the run and the pass this year, and especially after that Washington loss, they kicked it into high gear.
Yeah.
And they were scoring a ton of points, and they were gaining a ton of yards. And yes, you can look at the stats and say, well, second in scoring offense is great. Second in passing efficiency is awesome. They were 88% in the red zone. They were first and first down offense. In the passing offense, they averaged 7.81 yards per play. In the rushing offense, they averaged 5.89 yards a rush. Look, stats are one thing. But what I'm getting at is why I bring these up is because the style of offense that Oregon ran put Bo Nix and Bucky Irving in the best possible situation to succeed.
Okay.
And they mixed it up so well that they kept the defense guessing, and that's why they were able to put up points like that. That's why they were able to be so highly successful on offense. Now, did it work out for them in the end? Obviously not. I mean, they got a bowl win, but they didn't get the Pac-12 championship. They didn't get into the college football playoff. But I just really, really liked the firepower I saw out of that offense. And so if I can carry that over, if I can sprinkle a little bit of that firepower into Nebraska, I'm not saying Dylan Raiola can be what Bo Nix was last year, because that would be insane.
Not as a true freshman.
That would be absolutely insane, and he would have to be the Heisman winner just because you have to take that into account.
Lock it up, send him to New York.
And I'm not saying they have the weapons either that Nebraska has, at least right now.
Right.
Doesn't mean they can't develop into similar things that we're seeing at Oregon. But right now, they aren't even close to what Nebraska was offensively last season.
Yeah.
However, if you give them this offense, if you give them the mind of Dan Lanning for a moment,
and you give him a quarterback,
it could be pretty special.
So
I would go with Oregon because I like to score a lot of points in video games too.
Sure.
And that also carries over into this point.
Hear me out. Iowa. No, I'm just kidding.
I love defense, and I want to see 2 defensive touchdowns a game.
Just imagine Dylan Raiola running the Deacon Hill offense. No, it's
8 for 9, 10 yards, 2 picks.
Wait, I don't think that maths.
It's 1 yard per game.
It's per play. It's funny that you bring up Oregon because my initial thought was Washington, because A, I love how much they air it out. I love how many shots they take and how aggressive they are. But B, it's easy to only see that part of the offense. Their passing concepts in the rest of the field are really good as well. Also, their run game is better than it gets credit for just because you have Michael Penix. They don't lean on it nearly as much. I think they would more if they had a different quarterback. I think they've got the stuff in there to have a really effective running game. They just don't have to use it right now. But I love their offense. And after I started thinking about it, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to change my mind here. So you took Oregon. I took Washington. Either
we'll play
way,
each other an ultimate team and see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Coming up next,
ultimate team.
We'll wrap up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will
I
be
think a lot of
back.
ways. I mean, I think he's more comfortable offensively making plays for other people. Defensively, he's made gigantic strides. And, you know, last year he was the new starter to 4 returning starters. So I think he really walked a fine line of leadership last year. He didn't want to overstep his bounds, I think, since he was a new guy. Maybe tried too hard to fit in. This year he's really taken the bull by the horns, and he's been a great leader. You know, the rebounding numbers, the assist numbers, he does everything for our team. And he's been absolutely a pleasure to coach.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back. We're wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me. We are live from the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill and on the H&H Chevrolet stage. And we are brought to you by our friends at the Omaha Supernovas. Day by day, we're getting closer to the first ever.
Hey, day by day.
Day by day? Get better and better? We can't be beat? We won't be beat?
Day by day is Nebraska's new slogan.
It is pro time, though. I know we're talking about Nebraska, but it's pro time now.
Oh, I was just making the connection of what Coach Collier said yesterday.
That's right.
Remember, first thing I heard, whenever somebody says day by day, it's going to be attributed to Coach Rule now. But Coach Collier came on the show yesterday and said, we're taking it day by day in training camp. And I'm like, hey, you know, there's another really good coach in Nebraska that says that. And if that line right there has anything to do with what we can expect out of the Supernovas this year, hey, that'll be A-OK.
Well, on the first opportunity you'll get to see that is January 24th against the Atlanta Vibe at the CHI Health Center. First service set for 7 p.m. You can get season tickets or single match tickets now at supernovas.com. There's a ton of world-class talent that's going to be in this matchup. You've got NCAA champions, All-Americans, and Olympians for your Supernovas. Join the volleyball movement sweeping across the country and see your Major League Volleyball team, the Omaha Supernovas, go check it out at supernovas.com. Wanted to get to something we were talking about off air yesterday, actually. And we're going to go away from college football for a second, and then we're going to talk to Matt DeMarinis at 8:00. But I wanted to talk about, you brought up a really interesting thing with Jackson Churio. He is a baseball prospect in the Brewers organization. And you're probably thinking to yourselves, why are we talking about a Brewers prospect right now who's never played Major League Baseball? Terrific question. I'm about to tell you why. It's because, I'm always fascinated by contracts. I always have been. They are the way they get structured, the reasons people do them. I'm a risk analyst by trade. I think there's a lot of risk evaluation in contracts. The Red Sox just signed Lucas Giolito to a short-term, kind of bigger money than I thought, but short-term deal. See if he can regain some of the magic he had with the White Sox a couple years ago. You see that a lot. We're like, we think there's high upside here. We'll give him a lot of money, but only for a short time. Or, hey, we want to lock up this guy long-term, so the money per year is maybe not going to be as much. Well, the Brewers have hopped on this trend that has been growing a little bit in minor league / Major League Baseball of signing these really top prospects to extensions before they log any service time in the major leagues, which is on the surface a very high risk proposition, right? Because the difference between minor league baseball and being successful there and Major League Baseball and being successful there is enormous. It is a way bigger gap than it would seem. You could argue it is even a bigger gap than, say, high-level college football to the NFL in a lot of situations, maybe not quarterback, but a lot of other positions. If you're successful in a Power 5 conference in a really at a really high level, you're probably going to be successful in the NFL. Again, with quarterback being the notable exception. Mm-hmm. In baseball, success along the way is just the next step, right? You have to prove it every single time. And the chances of guys turning into busts, even as top prospects, feels way higher in baseball. So much higher than it is in any other sport. It is, you're doing your best, and it is a total crapshoot.
It's a different animal
because of how mental the game is. And that's, again, why there's so much variance in quarterback play, is because of how mental that part of football is. The mental battle of baseball is so important that you can have all the physical traits in the world and still fail. Okay. And so the reason we bring this up is Jackson Churio signed this, was an 8-year deal with the Brewers, that basically the reason they do this is to buy out the players' arbitration years, and oftentimes a couple years into their free agency as well. So they're getting this player at a discount compared to what they would if, say, in 2 or 3 years as a major leaguer, they're going to start getting huge arbitration salaries. And then you have to risk losing them as a free agent after their service time comes up. Instead, you pay them now. It's going to be a little bit more expensive on the front end, but hopefully 6, 7, 8 years from now on the back end of that contract, you're getting really good value for your investment. It's basically the exact opposite of how everyone else in baseball does contracts, where they pay 27, 28, 29, 30-year-olds. They give them 8, 9, 10, 12-year deals. And so you're paying good money on the first half and getting pretty good value out of it. And in the back half of the deal, you're getting absolutely nothing. You're getting Pujols with the Angels. You're getting less than zero, right? It's a super interesting flipping of the dynamic.
Well, you think about it this way too. Would you rather pay good money at a gamble, or would you rather pay insane money when it pans out throughout a player's career? Like, that's what these owners have to kind of balance. And with Churio, it's interesting because I still am on the side of, man, it's too early. Like, the reason this has only happened like 6, 7 times is because you don't just go out and pay somebody before you see what they already are or what they have become at the major league level. And there's reasons for that, because there's a history of who's panned out and who hasn't. Yeah. So the list in front of me is this. The first player is Luis Robert Jr. He's been a great player for the White Sox. This is one of those deals that worked out. Yeah. One that, he stayed pretty healthy when he inked a 6-year, $50 million deal with the White Sox. He stole a lot of bases, right? He's a great center fielder. And he's third in their lineup, I think.
Yeah.
I think at his bat is third in their lineup. This is one of those things that worked out for the team because when he debuted in 2020, he won a Gold Glove in center field. He was runner-up for American League Rookie of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
And he earned All-Star selection in 2023. Like, this is something that really worked out for the White Sox. But then you have other guys on this list like Evan White from the Mariners.
Who?
Yeah. You know what? That's what you should be saying to yourself right now.
Yeah.
Who? He was the former 17th overall pick out of Kentucky. Had a great minor league career.
Mm-hmm.
But when he got paid, he hit the snooze.
Yep.
So in the minors, 277 in single A, 300 in double A, 293 in triple A. But what really sold him was his power.
Mm-hmm.
So he had 18 home runs in triple A. He was invited to the All-Star Futures game. He had 11 home runs in double A. He had only played 14 games in single A, but had 3 home runs and 12 RBIs and an OPS of 877, which is, trending in the right direction for what you want out of a player. But man, when he got called up by the Mariners, right? He's on the Braves now.
Mm-hmm.
When he got called up by the Mariners, he won a Gold Glove in 2020. That sounds great, right? We're already trending in the right direction. Guess what he hit in Major League Baseball?
Oh, no.
Guess what his 1 year in Major League Baseball looked like at the plate?
He was
his average?
sub Mendoza, wasn't he?
He was sub Mendoza.
So what? He was like 180.
165 is what he ended 2020 with.
I gave him too much credit.
And he hasn't appeared in the majors since 2021.
Yeah,
like this is like the problem with early contracts.
Yes.
This is what scares you. The Evan Whites, the Luis Roberts are the bang for your buck.
Yeah.
But the Evan Whites are kind of what you fall more into because not only is it Evan White, there's a guy by the name of John Singleton, also known for his power.
Who?
Also a first baseman.
Also a who?
He plays for the Astros now and back then when he got this contract.
And a bunch of teams in between.
He was the first player, and he probably should have been the last player
with 0 days of
early
service
money
time. Yeah.
with 0 days of service time. His OPS was 620 in 362 plate appearances, Ravi.
Yeah, that's not very good.
620.
So I want to flip this on you a little bit, right? Because the 0 days of service time, super hit and miss. The really low days of service time has actually been very successful.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes, it has.
And we're not even talking about that much more, right? So Matt Moore, for instance, from the Rays. The Rays did this a lot in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. They signed Matt Moore, had only 17 days of service time. So you're talking as a pitcher, that's like a handful of 19 innings, I think he pitched. He got an extension, worked out pretty well for them. He won 40 games, had a sub-4 ERA before he moved on. He had some injuries, but he was successful. Evan Longoria played 6 major league games, got an extension. How'd that work out?
Yeah, pretty well.
For
pretty
the
well.
Rays.
Has
pretty
had
well.
a great career.
Corbin Carroll for the D-backs.
That will work out pretty well.
38 days of service time already working out, right? When he got his extension. How about Salvador Perez for the Royals?
He
50 days of service time.
He'll go down as a
that
Hall
good?
of Famer.
Brandon Lowe, Rays again.
Yeah, and he's an all-star?
Yeah, another really good. He's got back-to-back top 10 MVP finishes in 20 and 21. Really, really good player. So you're talking like and then you've got Wander Franco in there too, who on the field, really, really good. I'm only talking about on the field. I'm just talking about on the field.
That's going to work out for the Rays.
I'm just talking about on the field. From a baseball standpoint, it was going to work out.
Then Tim Anderson's on the list. Paul DeYoung also worked out.
So guys like
Julio Rodriguez.
So we're talking about even like a third of a season or less. Some of these guys we're talking about like 2 weeks of baseball. Tells you enough in the major leagues to know if the guy has it or not. So yeah, the 0 days extensions you're insane. You're just throwing darts there, right? Yeah. But these super early extensions with just a tiny bit of service time weirdly work out on a really, we talked about maybe one guy who baseball wise, it didn't work out on that list, and it was I lost him.
Well, Michael Harris is kind of the one for me.
Yeah, Michael Harris was Michael Harris for the Braves.
He had a really good season when he got his extension, but last season it was kind of like
and it's not over for him.
No,
it's still really early.
And you know what? I'm not overblowing that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it needs to be overblown, but it was kind of like you kind of took a step back.
A pause there, right? Super weird, though, how just a little bit of service time makes that much of a difference in your hit rate. Something to keep in mind. Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review coming up next.
We will be back. Sports Radio.
Yeah, I think a lot of ways. I mean, I think he's more comfortable offensively making plays for other people, I think. So.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Yeah, I think a lot of ways. I mean, I think he's more comfortable offensively making plays for other people. Defensively, he's made gigantic strides. And, you know, last year he was the new starter to 4 returning starters. So I think he really walked the fine line of leadership last year. He didn't want to overstep his bounds, I think, since he was a new guy, maybe tried too hard to fit in. This year he's really taken the bull by the horns and has been a great leader. And, you know, the rebounding numbers, the assist numbers are, you know, he does everything for our team. And he's been absolutely a pleasure to coach.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me. We're on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. We're brought to you by our friends at Warhorse Sportsbook. It is that time of year, the Warhorse Festival of Games. You can enter to win the Festival of Games Prop Card Challenge for your chance at $100,000. It's free to participate for Warhorse Rewards members. The $100,000 Prop Card Challenge is for the big football game in February. Just make some simple predictions about the game to be eligible to win. Super easy questions like which team will score the first touchdowns. If you're familiar with prop bets, you know how this works for that big game in February. You answer some of those on the prop card for your chance to win $100,000. There's an additional grand prize drawing for $20,000 in cash and free slot play at Warhorse Casino in Lincoln as well. That is a really important distinction. You have to go to the casino in Lincoln to be part of the Festival of Games Prop Card Challenge or the grand prize drawing. So make sure you head down to Warhorse Casino in Lincoln for that. Or if you just want to place your regular bets, you can go to the casino in Lincoln, or you can go to Horseman's Park in Omaha, where you can always place your bets. I know that's where Andrew's going to go this weekend. He's got to hang out with his dog for a little bit. I think he might just go to the Horseman's Park and play some bets for a few hours.
Watch some games. You think they'll let my dog in?
Listen,
does she need an ID?
We'll
Are you guys going?
She's in dog years. I mean, she's well over 21.
I think as long as
years.
she's got an ID, she's fine. Yeah, you'll be all right.
Yeah. I think the DMV gave me one. I'll have to search for it.
That's the Warhorse Sportsbook. No bets, no glory. Joining us now on that Warhorse Sportsbook hotline is our friend Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. Matty, how are you this morning?
Good morning, fellas. How are you guys?
What's up, Matt?
We're just doing dandy. We're having a good time here on a Friday. Did you have to wake up for us? How's your morning going?
I mean, it's 8 in the morning, so yeah, I had to wake up.
Matt, we've been up for 3 hours, man. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure for the audience, like, yeah, we're doing this live. Yeah, so.
Well,
I took a shower for the radio bit. Yeah, that's something fresh and clean for you guys. I don't know if that helps the quality of the conversation, but I thought it might.
You know what? I can smell you through the phone, and you smell great.
I didn't go out of bed for you guys. I got serious about it.
I'm not gonna lie. Every once in a while, when I've had morning show spots to do before I was doing this, I would be woken up by the phone call. So you're ahead of me. You're ahead of the curve on me for that one. How was your holidays, Matty? You have good holidays?
Yeah, it was good. I like the break is kind of nice in between everything because it's like it serves as a reset when you go from like soccer to volleyball to basketball and then all at once, and then that break is kind of like to me it symbolizes like the start of basketball season because it's the only thing left for the next 2 months. So yeah, I'm ready to rock.
So Matt, before
you?
It was good. It was pretty low key, just hanging out with the fam. I know Andrew got to go back to St. Louis for a nice extended break there. So the St. Lunatics, right?
No,
not Nelly. No, okay, fine.
Nelly.
I was a big Nelly guy back in the day.
Same.
Yeah, that's kind of our wheelhouse, like our age range, Matt. That's like Nelly was the dude.
So hot in.
Oh yeah, I was a big Shake Your Tail Feather guy.
First unedited rap album.
Oh, that's like a really that's a milestone.
So I got a funny story for you guys quickly here about Nelly. Nelly originally got started at UPS. That's where his first job was.
I've heard this.
A former teacher of my chemistry teacher in high school used to work at UPS and was his manager. And he said, like, Nelly would be on the back of like trucks loading boxes with earbuds in and just spitting lyrics to instrumentals.
Just like freestyling?
Just in his ear. Like he's doing it, but he's spitting out loud as he's loading boxes.
That's crazy. I would love to. Go ahead.
Not to brain on that at all, but I've worked with plenty of guys who have done that too who didn't turn into Nelly. So not as uncommon as much.
Hey, how many end up like Nelly though?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I've done the manual labor thing before, and a lot of the guys are trying to get their mixtapes going. And they're
Let's just say he wasn't at UPS very long.
Yeah, you just like come around because you're like, hey, you might turn into something, and I'll be like, hey, yeah, that dude. I saw the beginning, but I haven't met my Nelly yet, I guess. If that makes sense.
One of these days, you'll meet your Nelly. Probably not, if I had to guess.
Doubtful. Huh? I think we're past.
Writing for the White and Blue Review. Some guy's just over here just spitting lyrics.
Joey
I wonder if
Tempo.
he's gonna be Nelly.
Joey Tempo's got bars, baby.
Matt's like, yeah, our former writer Jack Harlow.
Actually, it was Ed Sheeran. Weirdly enough, I don't know.
I don't know if he's really spitting rap lyrics.
He tries sometimes. It's funny.
He kind of gets close. Castle on the Hill, right?
I don't know what we're talking about. We're talking with Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. Matt, let's start with the women's game just real quickly. I know that there's always a lot of hype on this game for UConn when they come to Sokol Arena, and the last few times the result has been obviously not what Creighton has wanted. Ironically enough, Creighton's played UConn much better in stores the last couple of years than they have at DJ Sokol. I guess how much of this do you just credit to, hey, UConn's really good, Paige Beckers is awesome? Like, how much do you credit it to that, and how much of it's on Creighton for not being able to answer the bell?
There's quite a bit of everything there. I mean, UConn's really good. Paige Beckers is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Even more so now after seeing the way she impacts the game in person and the speed at which she does it. Like, when you see someone that plays that fast and is that skillful and they do it in an efficient manner at this stage of their career, like, it's pretty impressive to watch. So yeah, Paige is different. She might be the best player that's ever walked in that gym, honestly. Like,
which is a pretty high bar. I mean, that's
I know people are thinking, well, I mean, it's Creighton plays there, but like, there's been some legendary hoopers that have played in that gym. So she's got a high bar to clear. But I think what you saw the other night was pretty special stuff in terms of the things she did on the floor and the way she impacted the game, and just she doesn't make mistakes. It's like crazy. She's a overwhelmingly net positive for UConn, And then the other part of it is, like, yeah, Creighton played terrible. I mean, just didn't do any of the things that they need to do to beat a team like that. It wasn't just about shots not falling or, the type of shots they got. It was just, the attention to detail with, communication offensively and defensively, attention to detail and scouting report things. And, it was just a complete debacle. And, props to Flan, because, like, he tried to send a message to them that was unacceptable, and it got really, really ugly in terms of the final score, which dinged their metrics quite a bit more than like a 20-point loss or a 25-point loss would have, and if they had scored more, But he pulled the starters and kind of sent a message that I'm not going to play you through that type of performance anymore. So I think they were worried about some of the habits that were creeping up. But it was tough because they were winning games. They were finding a way to get it done. So it's kind of tough to, I guess, get that message across when a team is having success on the scoreboard. Hopefully, I think the hope for him now is that, getting 40-pieced in your own gym when you feel like you went into the game with a chance to win it. Like, that's when you feel like you're going into the game and it's you believe that you are good enough to win the game and you lose by 40 plus. That's kind of eye-opening for you, right, as a competitor. So, Lauren Jensen said it hurt her pride to be out-hustled to the degree that they were by UConn after the game. So it served as a bit of a reset in terms of the things that Creighton's doing that just, aren't top-of-the-line stat sheet specific. So we'll see how they bounce back from that and how they grow from that, because they're definitely better than minus 44 versus UConn, even as good as UConn is.
Matt, is Gino Auriemma the best coach you've seen in person?
That's a good question. So I've seen Coach K and Bill Self square off, like, so that's pretty high on the men's side, I think.
Yeah, it's about as good as it gets on the men's side. I mean, we've seen Jay Wright a bunch.
We've seen Jay.
I'll take Jay Wright over just about anybody.
Yeah, Gino's different. I'll tell you, he's very unique. his pressers are very unique. He's very, very thoughtful and thorough in his answers. For his stumble on the word here now. For as detailed as Flan is with his answers and making sure he kind of covers every ground of the question, Dino's a lot like that too, which is rare. Like most coaches just try to say less and be a little bit cookie cutter about their answers and get in and get out. Flan and Gino specifically are not like that. So he's very thoughtful. He's very, introspective. And then obviously the results are in a one-of-one type of category. Just the way he coaches. He coaches really hard too. Like, he gets after his players. Like for just the simple details throughout a game. Execution stuff is big with him. So you see him kind of harping on those constantly throughout a game, no matter what the margin of score is. So that's impressive to me because his process. I can tell by his demeanor on the sideline that his process is like that pursuit of perfection, and you can see why they've been as good as they've been over the course of his coaching career. Because he doesn't allow for slippage, even no matter if they're up by 30, he'll coach them. If you're watching him, you can't tell what the score is basically, and I think that's kind of the part of the secret to their success is that he doesn't take the foot off the gas in terms of how he holds his players accountable, whether it's the best player or not.
Matt, quickly before we change gears to the men's side, you spoke about the impact that a player like Paige Beckers has just on like the fan community as a whole for women's basketball. And then just yesterday, you see NCAA and ESPN renew their contract of an 8-year agreement, $920 million to host 40 championships. But a big piece of that was women's basketball. I think a big percentage, like close to like 57% of that deal had to do with women's basketball. Does that deal happen without players like Becker and Clark and Reese in today's day and age?
Probably not. No. Honestly, you guys might have to cut me off on this topic because I'm going to go off here. Like, there's, it's long. It's a long time coming for this, and some of us saw it, before this wave really. And I don't know who deserves kind of the most credit for it. I want to say like Caitlin Clark has changed it to a large degree, but Paige Beckers was one of those players coming out of high school, like number one player in the country in her class. The injury derailed her springboard, but even when you look at her body of work so far, like she's already had some legendary performances that, that I know garnered a lot of attention, that garnered a lot of buzz, and, made you say, wow. That NC State Elite Eight game, she was just, that's one of the best individual performances in the NCAA tournament on the men or women's side. It was Steph Curry-esque, the way he took over for Davidson back in the day. Like, she just was unstoppable. She got to every spot she wanted, hit big shots time and time again. And so that was kind of like a glimpse of what she's capable of. And, we're starting to see it now in a more consistent day-to-day manner now that she's healthy again. And knock on wood, she stays that way because she's fun to watch. But you see the other night in Caitlin, like, she's not having a super great game, but it's one of those things where, everyone in the arena knows who's about to get the ball here. Everyone in the arena knows what she's going to do with it, and including the opponent, and they defend it well, and she still goes cash money from the logo, just an incredible player, an incredible performer. Just understands the moment and understands that her role in elevating not just her own individual career, but, the careers of everyone who's going to follow her. And they're not, it obviously is a big part of it from the women's basketball side, player driven stardom. I think the volleyball part of it is just the athleticism you see. I think starting to like open their eyes to just what high level volleyball looks like in this country at the college level is pretty incredible. Because it feels like you're watching high level athletes. It doesn't feel like you're just, so I think a lot of the pushback on women's sports is just yeah, okay, it's kind of just a Title IX balancer for overinflated football rosters and resources. Like, you have to balance it out. And, we're kind of like, yeah, we're giving the women the chance to kind of play sports, and it's nice and everything, but it's not really a major sport in this country. And I think that's changing. Like, I think it's hard to be honest with yourself if you actually sit down and watch these sports and watch these athletes and watch the competition level that you're seeing in front of your eyes and say that this isn't legitimately high level as football or basketball is in this country. So, it's a long time coming, but I still think it's just the tip of the iceberg, honestly, because it's just, it's infectious. You see it, and then you kind of get a reaction from it. And I think the thing that's been crazy about this last wave of it, this last year or two, is that it doesn't just die off when the season ends. It keeps going, like, into the off. I mean, we've got Texas and Nebraska fans just like all over each other, and we're in January now on volleyball stuff. You know what I mean? Just petty volleyball recruiting stuff.
Yeah,
that's the kind of conversation and the vitriol that you get with like football and basketball, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't usually what volleyball has done is like you talk about it in December, and then before Christmas it's out of your mind and out of your conversation. Like we're into January now, and we're still talking about volleyball and talking about next year and talking about the future and talking about the past. Like it's booming right now, and it's not going to slow down. I think it's just the tip of the iceberg.
All right, Matt, let's switch gears over to the men's side. They've got a big...
I told you to cut me off. Sorry.
No, it was a great answer.
Yeah,
we're not cutting that off.
Yeah, you were rolling. I had no interest in cutting that off. We do only have about 5 minutes left with you, though, so I do want to get over to the men's matchup against Providence tomorrow. Obviously, Providence dealing with a huge injury to their star, Bryce Hopkins, out for the rest of the season. Creighton dealing with their own struggles, although not to that degree, just in terms of how they're playing right now. I haven't loved what I saw from them for the last 2.5 games. It looked pretty good at the start of the second half against Georgetown, but for a lot of Villanova and a lot of Marquette, at least on the offensive side of the ball, and sometimes on defense as well, haven't really been in love with what I've been seeing. How have you evaluated and kind of graded this team through the first 3 Big East Conference games?
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit of that, up and down, figuring out. I mean, I think they know who they are. I just think it comes and goes sometimes in terms of the level that they're executing it at. I mean, when you're incorporating, when you lose a Ryan Emhart and Arthur Kaluma, like those are 2 big pieces to their run last year.
Mm-hmm.
And, Mason Miller has a lot of experience in terms of years in the program, but not a lot of experience playing this role that he's had. So it's an adjustment for him in terms of play-to-play consistency and being at the proper intensity level that you need to be every single possession when you're out there.
Mm-hmm.
And Stephen Ashworth is coming up a level, I guess you would say. I think the Mountain West has really good teams in it, but I think it's just a different level of intensity with Big East games. I don't know. I can't really explain it in any other way, and I know it would piss a lot of people off if they're in the Mountain West and listen to that. But I mean,
the Big East is better than the Mountain West. That's not a hot take. Like the Mountain West is a really good conference, but the Big East is better than the Mountain West. That's not a crazy take.
Yeah, it's not crazy, but I think that some of the things that he did well in the Mountain West should translate to the Big East. It just hasn't yet.
Yeah.
And the thing too is I think it just takes time, especially the more important your position, the longer it takes to kind of get your feel for it. I mean, I think we would all agree that Baylor Shireman is playing better across the board than he did last year.
Yeah.
And then I think, we've seen the same, I think, a little bit when you look at, for example, Tyler Kolek, his first year with Marquette 2 years ago, just 2 years ago, was unplayable at times.
Very bad.
You know what I mean?
Very, very bad.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? He shot around 30% from the floor, which is horrible. And especially as a primary point guard. And, now we think about him as the best point guard in the country, if not top 3, right? So it just takes there's an adjustment phase right here that it doesn't come right away for everybody, And I think that's what we're seeing with Ashworth, especially in terms of his shot making, because, I think there's just a little bit of a timing aspect to it, like, because he's missing open shots at a higher rate than he missed them, in his career. And you're thinking, well, they're open shots, so what's the difference? Well, I mean, the difference is the timing is just like closeouts are faster, harder. There's a longer, more physical athlete, both knocking you around and coming at you on the shot.
Mm-hmm.
So just, the timing is different, and he's not as comfortable probably as he was, last year. So that's a little bit of adjustment. But I think there's other things that are happening that are good. His assist to turnover ratio is really good. His pace is really good. I think you can see that his impact, is good enough for Creighton to be an elite team. It's just about putting it all together in terms of the shot making and the facilitating, and I think that will come eventually, because I think he's getting the shots that he should be getting in this offense. It's all about just knocking them down. And what tomorrow represents, just to wrap it all up, and so you don't have to ask a follow up, like
which was going to be my follow up.
Hey, you have 5 minutes left. Sorry.
Just run out the clock, Matty. You're all good.
Yeah, Providence is going to have a little bit of an identity crisis tomorrow, and it's advantageous for them in this sense. Creighton doesn't know what they're going to do. Creighton have a plan for how they're going to come out and how they're going to approach the game and how they're going to look without Bryce Hopkins, but they don't truly have a feel for it, and they can't truly prepare for it. So Providence has an advantage there. Where they have a disadvantage is obviously Bryce Hopkins is a stud, and when you look at their on-off splits in terms of their, per 100 possessions, it's a nightmare difference for them. So they have to shore up a lot of deficiencies that aren't going to be replaceable by plugging someone else into the lineup. So they need someone to step up, and I don't think it needs to be one person. I think one person needs to play better than they've been playing so far this season. When you look at a Corey Floyd or Rafael Castro or a Ticket Gaines, one of those guys needs to be dramatically more consistent than they've been so far this season. And then everyone else that's kind of been dependable for them so far this year just needs to be incrementally better. A few percentage points.
That's our friend Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. His phone apparently was telling him that it's time to go also. It's cutting out there at the end. Matty, we appreciate your time as always, and I'm sure we will catch up with you again soon. Yep, he's gone. It's fine. That's Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. Coming up next, it's time to get into NFL silly season a little bit. We got playoff pictures. We got coach hot seats. Who's still on the hot seat? Who maybe coached their way off of it as well? All that and more coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on a Friday. We're getting you ready for your weekend. AR is waiting for the beat to drop.
I finally nailed it. That's like the first time ever.
If you were wondering on your bingo card what Andrew and I were talking about in over the break, if you had singing Piano Man to each other, that would have X marks the spot there on that.
Yell out bingo right now.
We are live on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. Want to thank Matt DeMarinis again from the White and Blue Review. Super good stuff there on men and women's college basketball and Creighton in general. Really appreciate his time. Make sure you go check out their work on White and Blue Review. But
certainly it's warming up here in the second half.
The second half of the show, we're going to warm up a little bit, Shane. I don't know.
I hope so.
It looks pretty chilly outside.
It does look a little chilly.
Hold on. Now it's the second half of the show. It's now 8:30.
Officially, yes. We are going to be talking to our guy Mike Sautter here at 9 and Matt Vrzal at 9:45. But right now, it's everybody knows this about me. I love coach movement. I love the silly season
contracts. I do. Coach movement.
All of
you hate Shane.
No, we love Shane.
I said you.
Oh, okay.
I love Shane.
All of the transactional things about sports I really enjoy. I don't know why. I'm a dork, I guess. But one of the things that is famous now in the NFL is Black Monday, where all the coaches get fired after the last game of the season. we are on the eve of Black Monday, even though it's a couple days away. This is the last day before the Week 18 games get kicked off tomorrow. We did this exercise a little bit about a month ago, I think, where we went through,
maybe a little over.
Yeah, I think 6 weeks ago, something like that, where we went through a lot of these franchises that we thought could fire their coach or already had fired their coach. I think just the Raiders at the time had fired their coach. The Chargers hadn't yet. The Panthers hadn't yet either. And at the time, Schefter was reporting he thought 9 to 12 was the number of coaches that could be replaced this year. And as we get a more accurate playoff picture, not totally decided yet, but we're getting close. You have a pretty good idea of who's going to make this thing. The AFC South has a little bit up in the air. The NFC South has a little bit up in the air because those two divisions are trash. But outside of that, you've got a pretty good idea who's going to be in the playoff picture. You've still got some tiebreakers to work out between Atlanta, New Orleans, and Tampa, as well as between Jacksonville, Indianapolis, and Houston. Pittsburgh is in that mix in the AFC as well. And then Buffalo almost certainly will make the playoffs, but hasn't technically clinched yet. They'd have to have a confluence of events to not make the playoffs at this point, which would be a flat-out disaster, by the way, and leads me to my next point here of the coaching silly season. I actually think if somehow Buffalo doesn't make the playoffs, or even if they get bounced in the first round, I think we might see them move on from Sean McDermott.
I still don't. I was on the don't train a month ago.
I was on the yes for sure train a month ago. I'm on the maybe train now.
And now I am officially on the I'm hammering down 100%. You just can't.
They have underperformed. I know they're playing better now.
They've underperformed, but they're 10-6 and they will make the playoffs. They have beat the teams that they should have beaten.
They need to, yes.
Early on in the season, yes, they struggled, and the Bills were turning the ball over way too much. Their defense wasn't stopping anyone, and boom, when you mix oil and water like that, what happens? Oh yeah, they tend not to mix well. They actually separate.
Here's the problem with Buffalo, though. Even if they make the playoffs, which they should, but they lose in the first round. Anything short of making the conference championship game this year is underachieving for Buffalo, for what their expectations were, for what their roster is. That's where you get in trouble. Because listen, should he get fired? Probably not. Well, maybe not. I'm not even 100% sold on that. But I think he could get fired because of underwhelming this season.
That would completely shock me. I don't remember a coach that got fired for winning.
I mean, I remember coaches getting fired for not winning enough in the playoffs. I mean, that happens.
I mean, I guess Bo Pelini got fired for winning, but there were other things.
He got fired for some other things. And he just happened to be winning while that was happening.
Sean McDermott said some things this year that were questionable.
They came out this year.
Yeah. That were a little questionable.
God, I forgot about that.
There's just no way, especially if they find themselves in the playoffs. It just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense.
Firmly on my maybe list, especially if they lose in the first round. Coming up, another name, that really doesn't make sense to me is Mike Tomlin, that I've heard out there a little bit.
That's just a no. It's the same with me for Vrabel. Like Tomlin and Vrabel are just two guys that I'm like, yes, Tomlin's had more success this season, but those are two coaches that just know how to coach football, and you don't get rid of them after a season like this. So
what I've heard about Vrabel is it might be more he wants to leave rather than they want to get rid of him. So that's something to keep an eye on with Tennessee. Is it sounds like he might be a little burned out. The only thing I could understand in Pittsburgh is, and I don't think they should get rid of him, but Tomlin has been there for a very long time.
And he wins.
He does win. But sometimes, and I'm not saying they should do this, sometimes the skill set of what a team needs after a coach has been there for a super long time is different from when he started, or even when he started on a run with that specific team. Now, I think Pittsburgh, once they get their quarterback situation figured out, then
they'll be fine.
We're not having this conversation, right? Which is why I don't think they should do it. But that's the only thing, it reminds me of Terry Francona with the Red Sox, right? He was great. I didn't want him to fire him. What that team needed eventually when they let him go was different than what they needed when they hired him. So that's the only logic I can think of with a Mike Tomlin, but I don't think they should go down that road. Now, the AFC South is interesting. D'Amico Ryans is safe because he's done an incredible job in Houston. Indianapolis.
I think Shane Steichen saved his job.
He's safe as well because of how well and honestly, Gardner Minshew may have saved his job. Like
that could be it too. I would have been shocked to see him go after 1 year.
I agree,
especially when Anthony Richardson went down and you just didn't have your quarterback.
But if this had gone like off the rails without Richardson, maybe I could have seen it. I think Doug Peterson's safe in Jacksonville. I don't think that's an issue.
He's just another one of those good coaches.
Sean Payton is going to be safe in Denver.
You know what's funny? I have him down still as a maybe because of the off-field things about how the perception of Sean Payton in Denver has a negative impact or can cause negative repercussion for that team.
So Sean Payton's interesting because I agree that it hasn't been a good look. Obviously, it's gone okay. They're 8-8. That's fine, right? It's not great.
But they started 0-5 and then won 6 straight or something, and now have lost, however many
2 of their last 3.
record.
Yeah, they're better than they started. They started looking off like maybe the worst team in the league. Obviously, it's gotten a lot better. Here's the problem, though, is I think you're at a point of no return with how far they've gone down the road with Russell Wilson and getting rid of him to go back and be like, actually, we're going to get rid of Peyton instead. He'd have to do something. I mean,
be a good look for the NFLPA.
It would be, but he'd have to do something egregious in order to get fired after they've gone all in on him at this point. And I think it's funny because I don't know if we talked about this a couple weeks. I don't know if Sean Payton's that guy. Like, I don't know if he's that dude. It has been a very long time since he won that Super Bowl. He's kind of just been okay since then.
And who won the Super Bowl? That defense? Drew Brees?
Yeah, right? It's like, okay, maybe is he this guru that we all talked about, or is he just Mike McCarthy with better PR? Like, what are we, what are we really doing here with Sean Payton? So that situation's interesting, but I think he's safe because they've gone pretty much all in. Obviously, the Raiders and Chargers are already looking for a new coach. Although Antonio Pierce is interesting, and we'll stop here in the AFC and we'll do the NFC after the break here. But
Antonio Pierce has a job.
You think he's got the job?
It's him.
Ooh.
The players like him.
I know they do.
And he's really found a way to win in Vegas. And I think the camaraderie that he's formed there, especially when you have your stars liking how you coach, like Devontae Adams can't say better things about him. Yeah. Max Crosby can't say better things about him. When your stars like the coach, that's a new thing for Vegas. That's something that hasn't happened in a long time.
Well, they liked who was the interim? Rich, was it Basili? Shane, can you help me out here? Do you remember?
Yeah. And by the way,
Gannon?
Rich Gannon, he was awesome. That was my guy right there. I'd love me some Rich Gannon.
Big Bill Callahan guy with the Raiders.
No, but there's something to be said about the current coach right now for the Raiders, because he's a Raider guy. He grew up as a Raider. He grew up as a fan, right? So you take that into effect. That can cover a lot of band-aids, as in working with the manager or the owner of the team. I mean, so I think that's where the Raiders stand right now, and I think that's why he's a really good fit.
I'm telling you, when you win and the players like you, it's hard to get rid of you.
They've lost 4 of their last 6, though. That's where it's going to be.
Think about what they're working with, right? They don't have their starting quarterback. Aiden O'Connell is in. Josh Jacobs has been banged up the last few weeks. They've been missing their pieces.
I know. I think they might take a swing at a bigger fish. Coming up next, though, we will talk about what's going on in the NFC coaching cycle as well here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We are live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. I want to tell you about our friends at Dingman's Collision Center. They are the best in Omaha, voted best of Omaha for 18 years running. That's a really long time. Mm-hmm. They've been voted best of Omaha for so long that their best of Omaha-ness could vote. They could graduate high school. That's how long that Dingman's Collision Center has been voted best of Omaha. They've been in business, family-owned and operated in Omaha for over 25 years. They've got 4 great metro area locations. They can work on whatever you bring them, Teslas, Fords, anything in between. They've got the latest technology because they invest in it. It's an ever-changing industry. Cars are changing and getting weird and more complex all the time. I couldn't work on them when they were simple. I certainly can't do anything with them now, but Dingman's has me covered. They also invest in the community with their Give Back program. They give back to the community with every car repaired. Go check out dingmans.com for more information. Continuing on our NFL hot seat and going on to the NFC. We disagreed a little bit on the Raiders and Antonio Pierce. It's hard to know what the Raiders are going to do because their franchise is a bit of a dumpster fire when it comes to head coaches. I was giving Shane a hard time.
Don't you have to have a new coach every 2 years?
That's actually not a rule in the NFL. You aren't legally obligated to fire your coach.
Actually, yes. In Las Vegas, or at least Oakland/Las Vegas, the rule is you have to have a new coach every 2 years, and you can't sign any of your first-round picks.
I mean, we're trending in the NFL not to have your starting quarterback that starts in week 1 be the starter in week 14. Now. So what's the difference? I mean, you switch it out like quarterbacks.
I don't think that's what you're supposed to do, Shane. That's we could talk off air about how franchises are supposed to be run, but that's okay. So moving on to the NFC, there's obviously some ones that I think are safe. Anybody that's making the playoffs, although I will say.
Oh, and now, so in the NFC, it's okay if you're making the playoffs, but not in the AFC.
Well, hold on. I stopped myself there because I'm not 100% sure if Mike McCarthy in Dallas, if they get bounced early, because Jerry Jones is a little unpredictable. And
did he fire Jason Garrett when they won?
I think so. I think they made a playoff appearance in the year that he got fired. I'd have to double check on that. But the Cowboys are good. They're probably not Super Bowl good this year. And
they're close. That defense, they're just inconsistent. If they could get more consistent, then they would be a lock, I think, for an NFC championship game.
So the reason I look at them as kind of a tier below is because of what happened to them against the 49ers earlier this year, where they just got absolutely boat raced. And I just, when they have played the top level teams, now they played the Eagles closer than they played the 49ers, and then they won against the Eagles pretty convincingly later in the season. But I don't know how much of that was also when the Eagles started to have their slide as well. I don't know how much of that's the Eagles. I don't know how much that's the Cowboys. I think when you look at how they've played against some of the top teams in the league, I don't know if Mike McCarthy can survive an early round playoff exit.
So Dallas did fire
Jason Garrett.
Well, I was about to say Jerry Jones.
No, he's still there.
Yeah. The Cowboys did fire Jason Garrett after an 8-8 season, missed the playoffs.
Okay.
So that makes sense.
Yep.
But also, if you take a look back at his playoff history, which he only made the playoffs 3 times with the Cowboys, he lost in the divisional game every single time.
Right. And
so there wasn't a lot of success there. But yes, in terms of Mike McCarthy, I didn't think he'd still have a job up to this point in Dallas.
Yeah, I think he's been underwhelming.
I thought he used his extended stay coupon or something with Jerry Jones. I'm not sure because, I could have seen him get fired last year, maybe a year before that.
Yeah, especially, last year losing to the 49ers in the divisional game was, especially after losing to the 49ers in the wild card game the year before, like back-to-back years losing early to the 49ers. I don't know. I think that probably sits with Jerry Jones even worse than it would with other teams because of the history between the two franchises. If they get bounced early again this year, I just don't think.
Maybe I'm just too scarred by that 6-10 season he
from
had
the first year.
There. Yeah, I just didn't think Mike McCarthy ever was a good fit in Dallas.
Yeah, it always seemed weird. It always seemed like a weird fit.
Because he has won a lot over the past 3 seasons.
Yeah, regular season for sure.
He's probably won like 35 games there.
Yeah, so he's 12-5 the 2 years previously, and then 11-5 this year. Could be 12-5 for the 3rd year in a row.
So yeah, he could win 36
which
games.
Is very solid, right? But in Dallas, it's not about regular season; it's about postseason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where he's the one guy I think in the NFC that I look at and say making the playoffs probably doesn't cut it there. The other
that's a maybe still for me.
Yeah, I don't think it's a for sure. I think it's a maybe. Same. I'm in the same place with him and Sean McDermott. Honestly, I think they're both maybes in terms of how their playoff performance goes.
Like I said, I don't know. I feel like if you make the playoffs, there's just no way I can get behind somebody that fires their coach. Now, if you have some history to go off of, like, hey,
Sure.
if they lose to the 49ers again
3 years in a row,
then maybe
that's a tough pill to swallow.
But I think it's a better chance in the East outside of the playoffs. Ron Rivera is getting fired for sure. And
you would imagine,
and Daboll,
yeah.
I think, is somebody that is he may lean more to the maybe side of things than he does to the for sure side of things.
Because he was good last year.
But I don't think what we saw out of the Giants this year was anything close to what projections had them at. Now, Daniel Jones, of course, getting hurt didn't help, but Daniel Jones isn't the answer either.
Yeah, so there's two problems there, right? Is Daniel Jones gave you a little bit of false hope last year if you're the Giants and thinking that he might be the guy. I don't think he was ever the guy. I didn't think he was the guy when they drafted him. I don't think he's the guy now. And also, they weren't playing well before he got injured either, right? They maybe have played better with Tommy DeVito at quarterback than they did with
Tommy Dimes.
Yeah, with his
you have to talk like this when you talk about
Italian League Hall of Fame agent. Congratulations to his agent. He made an Italian Hall of Fame locally there. Good for him. I can't get over the fedora. That's quite the look.
I'm cool with it.
I love it, but it's
very mob-like.
It is. But yeah, so Brian Daboll is a firm maybe for me. I think maybe he gets another year because of the injury situation, but I'm not sold on him. I wasn't sold on him last year.
How much do you laugh at the fact that the NFC North is keeping everybody?
Yeah, I mean, so that's the one that I think Eberflus has coached himself off the hot seat.
Well, he has, because the Bears have already talked about retaining him.
Yeah, like that's and I don't put too much stock in that because I don't know. I always get a little
No,
iffy.
I put stock in it though, because like you wouldn't come out and say something like that, especially in the position that they're in for next season when you have the number 1 pick. That's why I'm inclined to believe that they're keeping Fields and not going to draft a new quarterback, because if you draft a new quarterback, maybe it makes sense to just
start fresh.
To take a new head coach as well. Now, some could argue that, Matt Eberflus, Justin Fields wasn't his option. He was thrown into that. So maybe if you give him a new quarterback, then we can decide if he's right for the system. But right now it seems, no, we're going to keep Fields. We're going to keep Eberflus and maybe turn a 7-9 team, which I don't think a lot of people projected the Bears to be after they traded for Montez Sweat.
No.
And turn this into a potential playoff team next year.
Yeah. So the place that I would look is they haven't fired Luke Getsy yet, have they?
No.
I would maybe look there.
See, Luke Getsy's that I'm with you, but he's that guy that always makes you scratch your head.
Yeah.
Because throughout the season, it's like, why didn't you run with Justin Fields more? And then they ran with Justin Fields,
and they look
like the final 2 games, and those 2 games are all you think about.
So that's why I say you get rid of him, though, because like Cynthia Freeland talked about earlier this week when we talked about her from NFL Network, the decision to not run with Justin Fields for the first half of the season cost the Bears a potential playoff spot. They
could be 9-7 right now, easily.
The last half of the season, they've played borderline playoff level football, and they just threw away. Well, they started 0-4. They started 1-5, right? Started 1-5 in the first 6 games. They finally turn it around. They've won 4 of their last 5. You're telling me if they hadn't played into the strengths of their...
Yeah, they should have beaten Detroit.
Yeah.
They should not have blown that game. And then there's another one on that list.
They had a 6-point loss to the Vikings. They lost a 3-point game to the Broncos early. Like those 2...
I think they blew a lead in the Broncos game as well.
Those 2, you just... because that was I think that was the Broncos' first win of the year.
That would make sense.
And so you flip those 2 pretty easily. Boom. You have a 1-score loss to the Saints a couple weeks later. There's a bunch of games. And listen, I know you're not going to win all your 1-score games.
Oh no, you're talking about 1-score games. So
NFL, it's different. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
They lost a 1-score game to the Browns where they blew a lead.
They did. That's another one.
That's a huge one.
That's another one.
You're telling
they blew a 4th quarter lead.
And this is so I look at
I'm thinking about them over the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean it's both. I think they blew leads against both of them. You look at this team, you look at the way they hamstrung Justin Fields. I think you keep Matt Eberflus. I think you need to move on from Luke Getsy. You need to hire someone who understands. Maybe you bring in someone from college that understands the Justin Fields skill set and is really comfortable implementing an offense around him rather than being like, hey, I'm the offensive big brain here. We figure out how to make the quarterback work around me. That's not how the NFL works anymore. It used to be, hey, we get the quarterback to run my system. Now it's like, hey, we get the offensive coordinator that can take the advantage of the quarterback skill set because it's easier to find offensive coordinators than it is to find quarterbacks. So Matt Eberflus, I thought was a lock to be fired and is going to be back next year. And I think they're
feel about it.
Listen, he gets one more year. I don't know. Atlanta, they have to fire their coach. New Orleans, they have to fire their coach. I think that's it for the NFC.
Can you tell me who coaches in New Orleans?
Dennis Allen.
Yep.
Yeah.
I bet I bet less than 10% of football fans can tell you who coaches in New Orleans.
Dennis Allen, Arthur Smith in Atlanta, both. See ya. We're out of here. Coming up next, we're going to talk to our guy Mike Sautter here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Oh, yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Mike Sautter.
Yeah.
Mike Sautter.
Oh, man, you're going to put me on the spot.
Mike Sautter.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln for our third hour. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me. And joining us now is our guy Mike Sautter, our chief basketball correspondent here at
I think he's senior on his
whatever.
I like
Twitter
chief.
bio.
I did not come up with it.
I feel like when you say chief, it has to be followed up with meteorologist.
The boss came up with that.
The meteorologist. He is our senior basketball analyst.
There it is.
For Hurrdat Sports.
Boy.
Obviously,
How do you feel being called senior?
I know, old.
He is.
By the way, I am the oldest person of our team of sports people at Hurrdat Sports.
It's true.
I'm very much so the.
How do you like being
very
the dad
much
of
so
the
the
sports
oldest
department?
Well, I don't act like the dad.
No,
most
you
of the
definitely
time,
act like
so,
the teenager, but
yeah, that's okay.
He's the rebellious
I like
19-year-old, I think, is how.
I don't really know. I don't know if he's 19 yet.
I just like to have
He's
a
more
good
like
time.
13. Opened up a gift on Christmas, didn't like it, and then told everybody that he didn't like it and re-gifted it to somebody else on the team. That's Mike Sautter.
I would totally do that.
He's here for a good time, not a long time.
No, I hope he's here for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, today he's not here for a long time. He's got to get to Milwaukee.
No, yeah, I'm out of here. Right, I normally, try and stay
for
the
the
whole
hour,
hour, but today I gotta hit the road, Jack. That's a song, by the way. It's really
Does it
old.
follow with like no more, no?
That's right. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, see, sometimes I know things.
Going deep. In
I don't
the
know what
Rolodex
Chernobyl is.
for- That's all right.
You did. That is unbelievable.
No, I'm actually going to defend Andrew.
You know what,
here.
man? Like, I'll own that. I'll own that it was unbelievable.
I'm going to defend Andrew here because two things. I don't think I learned about it in school. Like, I don't think they taught us about Chernobyl. And at your age, I don't know.
Did they teach you about it?
I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
I'm going on 20 years now
Like-
outside of school, so it's been a minute.
We were talking in the office the other day, and I said, "Hey, I graduated high school in," and they're like, "I wasn't born yet."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh,
yeah."
Did you graduate in 2000s? Like
No.
early 2000s or before?
No, before that.
Can I hear the date?
No.
Can I guess?
No.
93.
No, I'm not that old.
I think
Late 90s. How about that?
98.
Okay. 98 is it?
Nailed it.
I was born before that.
Yeah.
Barely.
It doesn't matter. I was.
I am not a millennial. How about that? So
Ooh, okay. You're a Gen Xer. Yeah. So
Am
you're-
I considered
barely,
Gen
just
Z in
barely, I'm
97?
barely.
I think so, yeah.
Or am I
You were born
back
in 97? Holy.
Am I back end millennial?
I think you're a Gen Zer.
Yeah, you.
I'd have to look.
1997.
I will say I'll give, because at his age, and I don't think we learned about it in school, I don't know why he would know what Chernobyl is, but it is kind of, I don't know.
It's like just a known thing, right? Like people just know.
I assumed that, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. People besides me don't talk about Chernobyl that much.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I don't either.
So,
but
okay,
I just
here.
know what it is.
1986 is when it took place.
Yeah. So it was the
Like,
year before I was
It makes
born,
sense
even.
why you would know what it is because you were like
was
at an age
like
where you
7.
would remember that,
Yeah.
right?
Not really. I mean, I was
No?
7. You don't really remember a lot from.
He wasn't
Maybe
really
not.
like tuned in to Soviet Russia
Yeah,
energy
like-
problems.
You weren't watching the news
Today,
back
I
then?
would know. I would kind of.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the event just never made it. Never made it into my brain.
When I thought about it, like, I kind of understood. I was like, I guess it would kind of. I was actually more surprised that other people your age in our company knew what it was.
Yeah, right. Like that's what I have to say to that. Yeah, right.
They
These
had
are
no
people
idea.
at our company
There's
that
no
are
idea.
just saying it so that
They're
they don't
lying.
have to
They don't
take
get
the heat.
roasted.
Like they didn't know.
They're
We're
lying.
gonna call one
Maybe
out.
a few people
We're gonna
knew.
call one out. Brandon Tiedemann, you
Yeah,
didn't know.
he didn't know.
You didn't know.
Like, he looked it up and then was like, "Yeah, I know
He
what it
didn't
is."
Either that, or I have met a couple people that thought the Chernobyl miniseries was fictional. Like, I get it was dramatized, right? But they thought it was just a thing that somebody made up, not like
Maybe it was in a TV show or something that I missed, where somebody made reference to it. Like I could see like The Simpsons doing something with Chernobyl,
especially since Homer worked at the nuclear plant
right?
and stuff. Yeah, for sure.
And maybe
they definitely made 3 Mile Island jokes in The Simpsons, and I don't know if do you know what 3 Mile Island is? 3 Mile Island. There was a nuclear meltdown in the U.S. on 3 Mile Island.
Maybe I just don't know anything about nuclear stuff.
You need to learn more.
I know about the missiles.
Go watch Oppenheimer. Love that movie. Anyway, we're going to talk about basketball with Mike
I know what
Sautter
the
here.
Green Mile is.
Michael Clark Duncan,
That's the
R.I.P.
movie.
Pour one out to my guy.
Never seen it.
That's
Really?
pretty good movie.
I
Yeah.
don't watch movies.
Well,
It's a
you do
long
watch
movie, too.
basketball.
I did sometimes.
You do watch You watch kids movies because you got kids, right?
Yes. Trolls is the hot one right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you were
Uh-huh.
calling your
Watch-
kids trolls.
I watched.
I
I watched
feels
Trolls
like
at
it.
least once over the holiday break.
I really thought you were calling your kids trolls.
They kind of can be. My 7-year-old's getting a little
Is
witty.
it like a Gremlins thing? You don't feed them after midnight. Like
my
you gotta,
my
you
7-year-old's getting witty with the comebacks.
You better watch out. I mean,
She's got a little mic on.
Oh, yeah.
she's your kid. You
Yeah,
got to
for
watch out.
sure.
This is a what goes around comes around situation.
Yeah,
I think.
not. Yeah. Mhm.
Let's we are going to talk about
'Kay.
basketball here. Let's start with the Metro Holiday Tournament.
Yeah.
We'll get to Nebraska basketball here in just a minute. But Metro Holiday Tournament on the boys' side, you had Bellevue West.
Yep.
Dominant.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much.
I mean,
throughout
what
the whole
18
thing.
points was the smallest margin? Am I right?
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. They're.
I mean, that's dominant, right?
Yeah, it's pretty dominant. Jaden Jackson was outstanding in the whole. When I say the whole tournament, Robbie Garcia though, he is playing extremely well. Ever since they won against Totino Grace
Mhm.
in Minneapolis, he is really playing well. So yeah, it's they're good. Eldon Turner's also playing well. He was playing through some illness in the semifinals and the finals. So he but they won. I mean, they're Stephen Polachek is just
So-
cashing threes. I mean, they're
They had
pretty good.
They had a really big win against a really good West Side team.
Yeah.
In what that was the semis, right?
Yeah.
How big is right now? Because Millard North had been number one before. Millard North beat them earlier in the
Yeah,
season.
that's their one loss.
How
They got smacked though.
I would say they got smoked by Millard North.
I'm
But-
saying Millard North got smacked by
Yes.
Central.
Yes,
Yeah.
in at Metro.
Yeah.
How big do you think the gap is right now between Bellevue West and everyone else, or is it just certain teams are playing hot at different times?
Yeah,
we don't
it's-
really have a hierarchy.
I wouldn't say the gap's big.
They're playing the best right now.
Yeah, they're playing the best right now. I would say they're the most complete team, right?
Okay.
Like their roster.
Mm-hmm.
They actually have two bigs that you can throw out. I mean, you count Robbie, I guess, as a big, but he can step out, hit threes. He was 8 for 8 in the quarterfinal game. That's incredible.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
So they have the most complete team. They have, for my money, the best player in the senior class, and Jaden Jackson,
right?
In the whole state. I've said that for I don't know, a year now, probably or more,
at least. Yeah.
And I think he's becoming a little more efficient too, which is great. And he's handling the ball a little bit. He had an in and out dribble that was like a step back three. Dude like blew by him. It was awesome. So he's playing well. I will tell you, the team that is really playing well, Omaha Central had a really nice run.
They did.
Smacked Millard North. Daleron Thomas had an awesome tournament. Kind of, hey, I'm the guy, right? For them, he transferred from Omaha North this year, and he was the piece that they needed. They needed an upgrade at point guard. He clearly is. Their Central is just a very well coached team, and they play tonight. Millard North and Central rematch tonight, less than a week later, right? So
yeah, that's interesting timing on that one.
Yeah, it's just
how the breaks. Yeah, I don't
how the schedule was.
But
set up,
it's just interesting from a matchup standpoint to see if Millard North is able to bounce back, or if that was
it's
more
at Millard North. Yeah, I think it was just kind of one of those things. No one was going undefeated this year, or even close. Yeah. So I think it's just kind of one of those deals. They Central's so well coached that it is a stereotypical Chubbuck coach team.
Yeah,
where it's just athletes, football player guys, tough kids, all of that, and then you have this lead guard that can score for you and hit shots. And then you have another guard, DJ Sterling, who's capable of doing some stuff. And then Devin Holman's a nice player. It really reminds you a lot of what Omaha South was really good with Chubbuck Sr., who's now helping his son at Central. So, I also, Millard North, like Neil Mosser is never going to not make a field goal again in a game, which happened.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
That I feel pretty good about that. So
Kind of an outlier maybe for Millard North.
Yeah, it's one of those where like they were.
I also wonder. I know.
I will tell you. Can I interrupt you?
Yeah, absolutely.
The hottest team right now is Lincoln Southeast.
Okay.
Lincoln Southeast is on a tear.
Yeah.
Like they've won. They started 2-3 to start the year. They've won 5, 6 in a row, something like that. 5 in a row. They won the Hack tournament, and they beat. Of those 5 wins, is 4 teams ranked in our coaches pool.
That's impressive.
Wow.
Beat Westside, beat Pius, I believe, in that run. Southwest in that run. North Star they beat is a good team. Full throat North Star with everybody back.
Yeah.
So Southeast is killing it right now.
So,
Taymor's having a really good year for them, but Mike Nagoy came over from Parkview Christian, and he has been another ball handler guy for them. And Jake Hekelman has been a stud for Southeast right now.
So before that winning stretch happened, is that a team that you were keeping?
They weren't in the conversation as the best team in Lincoln. No, they weren't.
So that's kind of what I was going to ask. Is at what point this season? Let's just take Southeast for example. Did you look at what they were doing and say, man, I have a weird feeling this team's going to be special? Like, did you ever think that, or do you think that now?
No, I think now I do. They play Southwest tonight at Southeast. I never thought that. I thought, and I think other people, that follow this stuff thought that Pius or Southwest was going to be the best team in Lincoln. And right now it's Southeast as far as, just the run they're on.
Is that sustainable?
Yeah, I think they got a good team. Joey Warning, their coach, does a really nice job. Their staff does a good job. I think I like their pieces. I think they're pretty level, right? There's no ups and downs with them as far as the kids on their roster. They don't get them too emotional, too high, too low, pretty steady. So I'd like that. And they have Dan Geets, another guy, like they have 4 really solid players. So, which is good, right? That's normally to win Class A, you just need 3. And to win Class B and C, you need 2, and anything in D, you just need a guy. So
need a dude.
Yeah.
Need a dude.
So I think they have a solid team. This game tonight, it'll be packed in there. Last time I was Southwest Southeast game, it was 2-3 years ago. The gym was full, and both student sections to the top. Have you ever been to Southeast? Like it's big, right? It's really big. So both student sections just went like all the way to the top. It's huge. It was packed. So that environment will be pretty special tonight, I think, in Lincoln. But I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned Southeast because they are rolling.
Okay, so right before we'll get to Nebraska basketball after this, you were talking about complementary pieces a little bit for teams. And so instead of, because I feel like I've asked you before, like who you think is kind of like the most valuable player just overall in the state, who would you say is just one player, boys and girls? So think about both sides for me. That's most valuable to their team. So not like it looked at as most valuable player
like
all
a star,
around.
but like a glue
a little bit. Well, I would say Nia Jones on the girls' side for Central is clearly the most important play. She's their best player. She's committed to Bradley or signed with Bradley. She's going there. I would say she is easily the most important piece for Central. Doesn't come close to making the Metro final without her. Another girl, Kennedy Williams at Southwest, is another one that is vital. And they won the Hack tournament because she hit a deep 3 at the buzzer against Pi. She just does everything. And that's like a game or two after she made 7 threes in a game. So she's just super important. On the boys' side, for Central, it's Delron Thomas. He's huge. Like if he was out of the lineup, missed some time, a game or 2 or 3 or whatever,
that would really impact them.
Would really impact them. Everyone else is kind of, would find a way, right? So without guys, I think that's very. I think those are kind of the people.
No, I like pieces.
That. Yeah.
Real quick before we move on to Nebraska basketball, You mentioned a couple of the marquee games this weekend. You mentioned Miller North and Central. You mentioned Southeast and Southwest. Any other ones that people should be aware of if they want to get out?
Yeah, Class B girls tomorrow is Scott and Elkhorn North at Elkhorn North. That's on at 1 o'clock at Elkhorn North. So that is two of the best teams, two of the, feel safe to say, top maybe 6 teams in the state, no matter Class A or B or whatever. It is, I think, squarely, without a question, the preview of the girls' Class B state championship game. I don't think Elkhorn North and Scott are pretty good. There's this little bit of a rivalry there, and Scott hasn't been able to get over the hump against them. So that's I think that's a huge game. Yeah, that's off the top of my head. That's what I got without like digging too deep. Normally I'm a little more plain, but I know that I was making this trip this weekend. So
I would say, yeah. Speaking of big games and a trip that you're making, we're with Mike Sautter here live at the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Nebraska men's basketball going up to Wisconsin tomorrow. They play, I think, exactly at the same time, basically, as Creighton and Providence. But this is a top 25 Wisconsin team on the road. Nebraska coming off of a very good win against Indiana in a pretty crucial stretch of their schedule here.
Yeah.
Where they've got not only some opportunities to rack up some wins in terms of early on in the Big Ten schedule, but get maybe a couple quality wins against teams like Wisconsin as well. How are you viewing the way Nebraska's playing right now as they go into the stretch of at Wisconsin and then Purdue at home?
Is it this is the struggle, right? Like, I think Nebraska's probably pretty good.
I agree.
Like,
I don't think that's a hot take.
No, I know, but they beat Indiana, and the talk is, Indiana's not good.
I mean, they were 12 they were 10-3 coming into that game. Indiana was.
Yeah, but some 10-3 teams are a little overblown.
I get that.
Yeah, but people would say that about Nebraska based off their schedule or
who
they played.
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying, though?
I don't know that Indiana and Nebraska were entirely different teams coming into that game.
Right.
And then the narrative changed pretty quickly after Nebraska did what they did.
I mean, Indiana looked all out of sorts, though.
Yeah, they didn't
sure.
look good. They didn't look
good. And why? Because of that Nebraska defense.
Yeah, Nebraska played really well.
They did.
Also, there was a time in the late, like not late, but I guess mid, about the 8-minute mark, that they just left Keisei Tominaga at the top of the key. Like, they just
don't do that.
Ran away from him.
Don't do that.
And this was already after he was kind of on a heater. And I'm like, wow, that was not in the scouting report at all, for sure, 100%. So you can't, if they get him going, I will say the guy, like the key for them, obviously, I think Reek Mass, we talked about this. He is without question the most important player on the team. No question. Like, they don't, if he's out for a while or something,
they need him.
They're struggling. In order to win, they have to have him on the court, which credit to him, because he was laboring a little bit at the beginning of the game. Then I think as he got a little looser and get some sweat, that dude sweats a lot. So like as he kind of got going, I think he stepped it up pretty well and got a little more comfortable. But he is vital to their success. But Jamarcus Lawrence is a guy that probably isn't getting he doesn't score. He isn't the leading scorer and all that stuff, but he's settling things at the, I won't call it point guard, but lead ball handler,
primary ball handler.
Yeah, lead guard spot.
It's not really a real point guard.
No. Yeah. And that's fine because of the way they play. And if they can get the effort stuff. When Josiah Alec came to Nebraska, his role or their intention for him wasn't to score 12 to 15 points a game and get 6 rebounds. It was do what he did against Indiana. Didn't attempt a field goal, but he had a huge impact on the game. He didn't even attempt one.
Yep.
Huge impact on the game. Rebounded everything, had a couple steals, was the first to the floor guy in a key situation
8
after
rebounds,
he tipped the ball.
3 assists, 2 steals.
Yeah, like that.
That's that's for what his role is. That's a great line.
It's 4. They need him to be 4 rebounds and 6 rebounds, maybe 4 points. 6 rebounds, 4 points, a block, and give me the 5 fouls. You know what I mean? Like that's what they need from him.
Yeah.
And effort plays and just defend. So I think that's it. And Juwan Gary's CJ Wilcher off the bench has been fantastic.
Yeah,
but
right there, CJ Wilcher. So John Rothstein tweeted this out last night. In the 5-game winning streak, 13.8 points per game, 50% from 3-point range, and that he could be the Huskers version of Tyrus McGee, who played for Hoiberg at Iowa State. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really. Rothstein and I don't get along mentally in my brain very much, but
doesn't mean you can't agree with
anytime you just have, you're like a bot with stuff. It's a little hard for me, but I mean, it was good. Yeah. Hey, give him attention. CJ the other night was huge just because of the foul trouble that they got in with Bryce and Juwan and stuff. Him coming in, knocking down shots was very much so what they needed. They need him to come in off the bench. If he can and provide some sort of scoring punch.
Yeah.
He's been fantastic. He is so mature. That's the thing about this team. It's really mature. Like East that is thrown around a lot. And, Fred and I talked about their culture and things in the off season. If people haven't seen that, you can go find it somewhere on the YouTubes or whatever. But this group is very much so about one another. I feel like there's no me guys, and it feels like they're old. They're not real old. I mean, frankly, they're just not. But they're super mature, so they fit Fred's personality, I think. Bryce is doing well too. The rotation's kind of thinned up, but CJ is squarely the 6th man, and that's okay because I think he provides an important piece and energy off the bench and some scoring punch. We'll see tomorrow. I mean, Wisconsin's playing well. That'd be a top 25 win on the road if Nebraska can get it.
That'd be
huge,
an enormous win for
They
Nebraska.
moved up in KenPom from yesterday to 49, I think 48. There were 53 yesterday, and then net ratings 52, I believe, without having it in front of me or notes. But that is pretty good.
Are they ranked if they beat Wisconsin?
49 in KenPom.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, they'd almost have to be. They'd be 13-2 with a top 25 road win coming off into the rankings.
I think they're close-ish right now.
They should be.
They're right in the conversation. And then, what happens? Listen, Tuesday at 8 p.m. in Lincoln against Purdue is going to be lit.
Oh,
that place.
With the way they're playing right now,
that place is going to be on fire.
Remember how they played against Creighton?
Especially
not very good.
Right.
The way they're playing now,
with a win.
it's going to be it's going to be tough for Purdue.
If they can go into Wisconsin and beat them, Tuesday is going to be wild in there. It will be anyway, because even if they go to Wisconsin and let's say they lose by 5 or something close, it's still gonna
Even if they fumble it away and lose by 20. The vault's gonna be bad.
Yeah, it'll be crazy.
But if they're coming off of a win, it's gonna be a different.
The energy level going.
The pressure ramps up now every single game. They keep winning and winning and winning. Yeah, how do they handle that? Is kind of
that's something they're not familiar.
Program's
with.
never been there.
Really, they haven't. I mean, best start since the 90s. We're talking the DMV era.
Yeah.
That's Mike Sautter, our senior basketball analyst here at Hurrdat Sports. We appreciate you. Have a safe trip up to
safe
Wisconsin,
travels, man.
Yeah. Keep on trucking.
Coming up next, we've got a little. We're going to play a little game.
Yep.
Here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. We are live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We've got, this is normally the spot where we would clean up some of our stories from the week on the Warhorse Sportsbook cleanup. But I'm sure our friends at Warhorse won't mind. You had you were going to quiz me a little bit.
Yeah, I was just scrolling. That's what I do during the break. And I came across a graphic because we were talking about the NFL, and I don't know if my phone was listening to me, which they, as you said, they probably were, or if it just happened to pop up because it's a common thing that I look at, like fun things like this.
Right.
Most hated teams per state. Okay. We don't have to go through every state because a lot of them are grouped. One state's least favorite team ends up being, another state's least favorite.
Sure.
So I'm going to quiz you.
Yeah. Let's do
it.
I
will then update you. So like if one team is, let's just do a team that isn't on here. So I'm going to remove one team that I don't see. Okay. I don't see the Chargers. Okay.
Yeah.
For
nobody
example.
cares about the Chargers one way or another.
So if the Chargers were like the least favorite team of Wyoming, I would say, okay, it's Wyoming's least favorite, Montana's worst favorite, and Idaho's worst favorite.
Okay, so you're going to give me the whole.
I'm going to give, because I don't want it to be like, hey, what is Idaho's? If it's the Chargers too.
Sure. Okay.
So just to make it easier. But I wanted to start off difficult because what made me laugh was Alaska and Hawaii have the same least favorite team. And I'm curious if you could guess what team that is.
So my instant reaction would be one of two teams, and it's usually the teams that are generally most hated nationwide. So my first guess would be the Cowboys.
It is not the Cowboys.
My second guess would be the Patriots.
It is not the Patriots.
Oh, really?
Nope.
Those are my two. Okay.
Think regionally with these teams.
I mean, so it's big CFL.
Yeah.
They really don't like
think
the Toronto
West Coast with these.
They really don't like the Toronto Argonauts in Alaska.
Yeah. I wouldn't go into Canada or maybe down into
not a big,
Mexico or anything like that.
Not a big Saskatchewan Roughriders fan there in Anchorage
or anything.
I'm surprised that I could name two CFL teams. I'm really proud of myself. Montreal Alouettes, that's 3.
Yeah, good one.
I'm gonna go. So I'll go Seahawks.
It is not the Seahawks, but it is the same division.
49ers.
It is the 49ers.
See, I don't. So, why are they hating on the 49ers?
The 49ers are the least favorite of Alaska, Hawaii, Arizona, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana.
Haters.
Yep, they don't like the 49ers. I don't know what they did to the people up in Juneau or the people down in Honolulu, but they just don't like them.
I assumed that it would be Washington's because of Seattle. That makes sense. I could maybe guess some of the other states. I don't know what Alaska and Hawaii have against my Niners. That seems out of line, Alaska and Hawaii. I'll let it slide, but I'm not happy about it.
Okay. This team is only hated in one state, and it is California.
Ooh.
Who does California hate the most?
So my instinct is to say Seahawks there.
That is correct.
Oh, nice.
Nice work.
Nailed it.
Seattle Seahawks. Okay, this one, let's go with Nevada, Colorado, and Wyoming.
Oh, this is easy. This is the Chiefs.
It is the Chiefs.
Easy peasy.
Okay. Let's do Utah.
Okay.
New Mexico.
Okay.
Oklahoma. Arkansas.
Oh, these are weird ones. None of these teams.
South Carolina.
Okay.
And Texas. Who do they hate?
I was going to say Dallas, but you threw Texas in there. So
this one's tricky because half of those don't have NFL teams, so it's hard to.
And they're kind of sporadic.
Yeah, they're all over. I mean, you clumped a little of them in the Southwest with your.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mississippi hates this team too.
Oh gosh. I'm gonna go Patriots there.
It is not the Patriots.
Okay, give me a hint.
It should be the Patriots.
Well, your hint is one of these. You said a lot of these states don't have football. Think of the state that does have football.
I'm going to go Dallas then.
No, Texas does not hate Dallas.
I didn't know if it was like an A&M and Texas thing. I don't know. Okay, so one of the states that does have football is the most hated team.
No, one of the states that does have football is your hint of why this is the most hated team.
I confused your hint there. Okay, so who does Dallas hate?
You also said Arizona, didn't you?
No, Arizona hated the 49ers.
Yes, I said New Mexico.
New Mexico. Well, okay, so who does Dallas? Eagles?
Eagles.
That
Philadelphia.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
But I think it's funny how Mississippi just happens to hate on the Eagles.
Yeah. New Mexico. Down with the Eagles.
Get them out of here.
Utah. Not a fan of the brotherly love in Utah.
Okay, you have Nebraska. Who does Nebraska hate the most? I'm not going to give you the other two states that hate this team. I just want you to try to guess.
It would give it away.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nebraska, I think, is gonna be.
Can I guess?
Yeah, go for it.
Denver.
No.
I don't think it's gonna be the Chiefs. I think you have too many Chiefs fans here. I think you have too many Bears fans here. I think you do have many Broncos fans here.
Well, it should be.
Maybe you have too many Vikings fans here. You probably have too many Packers fans. Is it close regionally to Nebraska?
Kinda.
Okay, so it's
not really.
Okay,
I would say no.
Okay, not close regionally to Nebraska. I'm gonna go with Oof.
Again, don't overthink this too much because you talked about teams in there that Nebraska likes. Think about who then, if Nebraska likes these teams, who they would then hate.
I'm going to go Packers.
It is not the Packers.
Is it the right division?
No.
Okay. Okay, so they like the Chiefs and Broncos. Is it the Raiders?
It is the Raiders.
Yeah, there we go.
Nebraska hates the Raiders.
That's a bunch of crap.
I had to throw that one in there. Come on.
No, that makes sense. So the other ones are Missouri and Colorado.
No, Missouri and Kansas.
Kansas. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. There is only one state that hates the Bears. Who is it?
Minnesota?
Nope.
Wisconsin.
That is correct.
Okay. I knew it was either Vikings or Packers. I didn't know which one.
There are two states that hate the Patriots. One is New York. What's the other?
Oh, that's tricky. The New York. Is it in the Northeast?
No.
Is it Iowa?
It is not Iowa. Iowa hates Green Bay.
That makes sense. They border Wisconsin. Okay, let me see here. Not in the Northeast. Oh, Florida.
No.
Oh, I thought maybe a Dolphins there. Is it in the division? No, because that'd be New York and Florida is the only teams in that division.
They are not.
Does this team have an NFL franchise?
The team does have an NFL franchise.
Does the state have an NFL franchise?
Yes, they do.
So is it New Jersey?
It is not.
I'm gonna say this is
a team in the AFC. It's a state in the AFC with the team in the AFC.
Do they just have one team in that state?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can't say Ohio.
well, I was thinking maybe Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah, good guess.
Okay, so is it Maryland, Baltimore?
It is not.
Oh, who is it?
The Patriots
are hated by Massachusetts?
No, that'd be awesome.
That'd be hilarious.
No, they are hated in Indiana.
Oh, Colts Patriots makes sense. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Hated in Indiana.
It's been so long since the Brady Manning rivalry that I kind of forgot about Indianapolis.
Speaking of the Colts, they are hated in one state as well. It's a team in their division.
Tennessee.
Tennessee is correct. Nice work. You mentioned Florida. Who does Florida hate?
Everybody. The rest of the country.
They hate the same team as Georgia.
Everybody. Okay, so Florida has Miami, Tampa. I'm thinking since
they have Miami, Tampa, and Jacksonville. And then if they hate the same team as Atlanta,
I'm thinking I'm going New Orleans.
They hate the Saints. Nice work. Nice work. Okay. The Cowboys are hated by one team, two teams on this list.
Two states?
Two states. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. Two states. New Jersey is one of them. What's the other?
It's got to be Pennsylvania.
No, but it's in the same
region.
Regionally, you're close.
Okay. What's up there? Is it
New York?
Washington? I mean, it's not. I mean,
no.
Okay.
DC? Are you saying?
Yeah, like
Virginia.
DC.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I was saying like the D. That's why I was like Washington, maybe because I was like not a state, but it's okay.
Okay. And the last one I have for you is who does Maine hate?
Who does Maine hate? Maine? Why are you hating? Give me a hint real quick. Give me a division or something.
They hate a team in the Northeast.
They hate Patriots.
No.
They should hate them.
Giants.
No.
Jets.
They should hate them too.
They hate the Jets. Jets. Mike Sautter, I hope you're listening. If you want to take a road trip to Maine at any point, make sure to wear some New York Jets gear.
Yeah, I have some words with those folks up in Maine. All right, we're going to talk to Matt Vrzal to wrap up our week here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Now let's find out what Matt Vrzal is better at. Telling stories or making pizza.
Matt.
Matt's an exceptional young man.
Matt Vrzal.
Happy birthday, Matt.
You know, Matt, he's a tremendous athlete.
Matt Vrzal.
Come on, Matt, I'm with you.
You know, like Matt Vrzal, you're one of the sexiest people in the world, but you're not one of the most beautiful. How does that happen?
Here is Matt Vrzal.
All right, Matt, thank you very much.
We wrap up the show here on a Friday and wrap up our first week back from our little holiday break with our guy, Matt Vrzal, on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline, former Husker, owner of Paisan Pizzeria. Verz, how are you this morning?
Good, boys. How are you?
Good, Matty. Good to hear your voice.
We're doing well. How were your holidays?
Oh, it's good. Got a couple half days, couple days off, so nice. Got to see my family, and they haven't disowned me, so that's always good.
Is that because you brought pizza over?
We do, in fact, this was a tradition started a long time ago when my nephews were young. My mother and sister wanted to do pizzas on Christmas Eve. They thought that would be great for my young nephews to make pizza. And I said, that just sounds so amazing because I've only done that for the past 364 days. Why wouldn't I carry all this S to your house to do it somewhere else? This sounds great.
And now they're old enough where they really don't care. And so now I'm just bringing pizza to then cook, and they don't help. So,
So from 364, now it's become a tradition of 365.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Pretty awesome.
You sound thrilled.
Well,
I wanted prime rib and like things like that, but no, that was.
But pepperoni and sausage is what other people were craving, huh?
Once the nephews came into play, the king learned about the princes. So
there you go. My wife feels for you a little bit, Verz, because she hosts and cooks everything on Christmas, and she's a professional chef or whatever. So I think she kind of gets the bringing work home thing a little bit that you're talking about. So I commiserate with you a little bit through her. So I hopefully
your wife's a professional chef.
Yeah, she works in a hotel banquet kitchen.
Jesus, dude. I mean, whatever horseshoe you were born with up your arse. I mean,
you're wondering how he got lucky,
dude. Can't figure that out at all. That one perplexed. That one keeps me up at night. I'll be honest.
I mean, you've met her.
He goes to sleep and
she's
he's
a
like,
very nice. She's a very nice woman.
Yeah, incredibly nice, and a professional chef.
Yeah, a pastry chef to be exact. She specializes in.
You must have done something good in a prior life.
Maybe I'm just a nice guy, Matt. You never know.
You must have done something really amazing in a prior life.
He saved a kid from a burning building.
Something. I must have, listen, it's good, clean living. Good, clean living, Verz.
There you go. There you go.
So, I was looking through your Twitter feed, and you tweeted out you retweeted a stat from Billy Carter about the number of guys that were playing in the Sugar Bowl that played in multiple sports in high school. And it was 80 out of 88 guys. And I'm big on the playing multiple sports makes you a better athlete train. And whatever you end up specializing in later in life, you'll be better at it because you played multiple sports. I'm assuming that's what you were getting at with that retweet, but just kind of elaborate that on a little bit for me as a high school coach. When you see guys that do play multiple sports, how it impacts what you see on the football field.
It's different. The reason why it's so valuable, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's different muscles that get worked. It's different strategies. It's different mindsets. It challenges your brain as much as it challenges you physically. Okay, if you look at some of them, smaller groups. Say you're a basketball player. I'm in a smaller group. So now can I work myself into this 5-man where the mistakes have to be fewer? Can we all get this together? Like it's just good for the kid. To football 24/7, 365. There's no way that can be fun. Like there's no way it can be enjoyable. No, they've been brainwashed and told by their overbearing dad or their crazy mom that this is it. You love it. You absolutely love it. But look at the greats that have done it. Like look at the amazing people that have played the game of football and were great at it.
Mm-hmm.
No, man, I played basketball, blah, 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 blah. Mookie Betts played everything. I know that's a baseball analogy, but that guy played everything. But it makes you just competitive in something else. Like you can, and there is too, like if you do it so often and you have success early, it'll warp your brain. Because if you're really good at it at a young age, okay, and you go through competitive catch and you're the best competitive catch player in the country, and then you start to feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And then reality sets in where there's dudes now with pads that are going to come hurt you. And you don't know how to do that when that happens. Or everybody else starts to develop more than you because you've become the best 10-year-old competitive catch player in the world. And everybody passes you, and then watch how you can see them. It's the temper tantrum kid. It's the kid that throws the hissy fit when it doesn't work because they've had success and they've failed. It's good sometimes for really good people, like people that are great at any sport, to go play a sport where you're a backup, where you're not the main dude. Can you be a teammate? Alex Gordon, one of the best baseball players ever was on the basketball team, but he wasn't the dude. I mean, it's good sometimes for elite people to go realize, hey, now, if you go and you're elite at both, now you know you're special.
Right.
But you got to go do that to find it out.
Matt, I'm with you. I mean, being a dual sport athlete, I think has tremendous upside. But I'm curious if you think if there's any exceptions to that rule, depending on the sport that you're talking about. So like take hockey, for example. It's a very expensive sport. It's one that if you don't play it consistently, you can fall behind. Is that maybe one sport that you look at and it's like, I don't know how important it is to be a dual sport athlete because of the time commitment that brings?
Hockey is an interesting one because even successful hockey players, I'm a big Spit and Chicklets guy. Like Spit and Chicklets is probably one of my favorite podcasts that I listen to.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll talk anytime they have somebody on it. Hey, what else did you do? Oh, I played football in high school. I played soccer. They intertwine. And as far as like falling behind on something, with hockey, guys will come on and they will say, hey, it took me a couple weeks to get back into my skating form, but it was good to be off of my skates. Okay. With hockey now, in their training methods have been invented. There's flat boards you can hit pucks into, it's all hand. If you can work on your mitts, you're going to be good. There's training facilities now for hockey. So I don't think that one has as much issue. Just the cost of entry to hockey is what kills it.
Mm.
And that's just crazy. Like, I mean, I've got buddies whose kids play goalie and they just cringe. They're like, oh my God, you don't want to play anything else? And they're like, coach said I'm the goalie. I was like, oh, you're a coach? No.
To ask your coach for 10 grand.
I was going to say.
Right.
Is coach going to finance this little endeavor too? Verz, that's really interesting. The falling behind part really catches my attention because I think not just with hockey like Andrew was talking about, but I think a lot of parents are afraid of their kid falling behind, whether it's like, oh, they didn't play on this select team or they didn't play in this 7-on-7 league. And I mean, in my experience, which is, limited to be fair as a college coach, most of the time college coaches don't care about that kind of stuff the way that parents seem to think they do. Has that been what you've seen in terms of getting guys recruited out of your program at Scott or the program you coach at Scott, or just generally your experience is that coaches don't care about that nearly as much as parents think they do?
I think that's a fair statement. Now, do I make fun of competitive catch a lot? Yeah. Do I think it provides a benefit or a value for quarterbacks and receivers? Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think that a league where you're with your own team would be more beneficial? Like 7-on-7, skip the local part, right? Skip the this is our town team
sure
version of it.
Yeah.
They just went straight to all-star teams.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to Kansas City. Hey, we're going to Oklahoma. Hey, we're going to Texas. Hey, we're going to Florida. We're going to grab all the best of the best. When at the end of it, I don't think that helps the kid develop because that's not the person he's going to be with.
Mm.
Now, those that are skeptical are going to be like, well, this is how a certain friend of mine acquires talent at a certain school he coaches at, and this is what he does. And, those kind of things. The part for me that frustrates me with this, because I have Steve Warren and his crew, they do a great job.
Mm-hmm.
They run a great organization. They do fantastic. But the stories he tells me about like, oh, you're not playing my son enough in 7-on-7. It's your fault. You are out. We're going to leave and go. As where I would rather see a parent shift that mindset to, well, son, there's obviously they are the best around.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously something they see in you that is not ready for this. So did they tell you things you need to go work on? Yes. Then go work on them and get better.
That's our guy, Matt
Great
Vrzal,
stuff.
dropping some truth bombs as always. Verz, we appreciate it. As always, we'll talk to you next week.
Hey, boys.
See you, man. That's our guy, Matt Vrzal, former Husker, owner of Paisans Pizzeria. That's all for the week. We will see you again on Monday, and we'll be talking about the College Football Playoff Championship game. Get you set and ready for that on a Monday. Have a good weekend, everyone.